the world is a strange, interesting place right now. It's weird for me when I hear from people who are much older. Like, I caught a clip of Sharon Osbourne on their latest
About
podcast.
to say, don't say I'm much old.
No. You're not Sharon Osbourne old. But Sharon said that things are more politically divided now than ever. And I'm like, how many administrations and things have she lived through? How many people at that have been through other times and are saying that now it feels like a time where it's more divided than ever? I feel like that's something a lot of the current generation can't even look at. Like you mentioned, current topics are so forced in your face and forgot about in a week. You don't notice the big things that are actually happening that actually have significant impact. And earlier, when I was going on the Reddit thread, I found that was having issues with me. One guy was complaining about people just talking about the drama with Dogma. I go and look on his channel. He has an interview with Dogma, but the interview is questions that he gave the management like a week ago, and then they handed him a piece of paper with the answers, and he was reading it off, and it was just such AI-generated bullshit. I'm like,
what?
You couldn't tell this? You couldn't tell that this was a fake interview?
Greetings, Legion. Welcome to episode 297 of Into the Necrosphere. We continue the countdown to episode 300, and this week I'm welcoming to the podcast for the very first time the great and powerful Wyatt Turner, host of the ever-popular Wyatt's Metal YouTube channel. He's also the frontman for Dark Insanity, a former extra on film sets who has worked alongside legends like Philip Seymour, Hoffman, and Paul Thomas Anderson. He's also a man who likes to speak his mind, and he did so and then some on this episode. It is a super spicy episode, certainly for the first 45 minutes or so, but we also got into a host of other topics, including his musical endeavors, the growth of the channel, and much more. I cannot wait to share this conversation with you, and it's coming up in just a few minutes' time. Before we get to that, though, we have us a premiere on the Sphere. This comes to us courtesy of our friends at Apocalyptic Witchcraft Records. They thought it would be worth the Legion getting a little taste of a Suffering single taken from their soon-to-be-released sophomore album. That's coming out on November the 28th. So for the very first time anywhere, you get to hear a brand new Suffering single right here on Into the Necrosphere. This is Hell on Earth, New Eden. taken from their sophomore album, Things Seen But Always Hidden, that was Suffering, with a song called Hell on Earth, New Eden. That album will be released through our friends at Apocalyptic Witchcraft Records on November the 28th. Mark it down in your calendars. Make sure you head over to the Suffering Bandcamp, link in the description to the podcast. Head over there, put yourself in a pre-order if you were suitably impressed, and when you do, you let Suffering and Apocalyptic Witchcraft Records know that it was old Jackson at Into the Necrosphere who sent you. Friends, if you're new to the podcast, a quick reminder that if you enjoy this episode, you should do yourself a favor and subscribe to all of my brethren in the horsemen of the podcasting apocalypse, the Cosa Nostra of podcasting, dedicated to slitting the throat of mediocrity wherever we find it. On a Monday, we have Horror Wolf 666, and that's brought to you by the great Brandon Legion. On a Tuesday, yours truly, Old Jackson, casts hexes and slays poses right here on Into the Necrosphere. On a Wednesday, we have your first double shot of the week. It starts with Everything Went Black. That's hosted by Mike Hill from the band Tombs. We also have Iblis Manifestations, brought to you by my brother from another mother, the Beast from the Middle East, Cheyenne from the band Drivax, and incidentally, Drivax is going to be on tour all over Europe, so make sure you check them out if they roll into your town. On a Thursday, we've got another double shot. We start with Necromaniacs. That is hosted once again by Mike Hill, and he is joined by his co-hosts, the Sheriff Mike Scondato and the Professor Jeff Kashid. They review new and old horror movies, one of my absolute favorites of the week, one I never miss, and you shouldn't either. We also have the first installment on a Thursday of Soul Knocks, which is a curated tour through the dark, the weird, the arcane, and the esoteric. It's hosted by the sinister minister himself, the Reverend Carl Hikara, and of course he wraps things up on a Sunday with the second installment of Soul Knocks. He has been a guest on many occasions on my Weekly News Rant, will be a guest hopefully at some point this side of Christmas. But on the topic of the Weekly News Rant, don't move a muscle when Wyatt and I get done talking, because I've got a full-throated solo news rant for you this week. We're going to be talking about brand new tracks by Enthroned. Of course, we had to listen to that new Megadeth single, so that's coming up later on. Also, some more drama in the ever-evolving saga of Aaron Stainthorpe and My Dying Bride. Decibel dropped their top 40 albums of 2025 on November the 12th, and I've got some interesting statistics to share with you about the way that their lists typically get put together. Let's put it that way. And I also have a powerful, potentially even, depending on which generation you're from and whether or not you're a big fan of the movie Predator, it might even be a slightly heart-wrenching Swirly of the Week. So that's coming up later on in the show. Right now, though, I am super pleased to welcome to Into the Necrosphere for the first time, but most definitely not the last time, Wyatt Turner of Dark Insanity and Wyatt's Metal. I suspect there'll be a fair bit of overlap in our thinking on quite a few things, but what we were talking about before I hit record is Reddit threads about you. There was one about me where a guy had posted a link to my interview with Nick Holmes for Paradise Lost and said, Nick Holmes appeared on a far-right podcast. And the evidence that he provided for it being a far-right podcast was the fact that I had, I got this, so my show is in two parts. So there's like an interview and then there's a news rant, and the news rant is basically just me and sometimes a guest, but sometimes just me reading news headlines and just talking shit. It's quite similar to some of the stuff that you do. So I had seen this video by some fucking dork called Endless Cemetery, and he was talking about how a festival like Metal Threat shouldn't exist. And the point that I made was, like, you can decide that you don't want to attend the festival, but you can't tell other people what they can and can't do. And so this dude on Reddit was like, he's whitewashing a neo-Nazi festival, etc., etc. And thank fuck, a lot of people piled on and was like, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, blah, 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 blah. So, eventually he took it down. But, it's funny how out of control things can spiral because of one person making some fucking stupid comment, really, really quickly.
Oh, yeah, and it's finally getting to a time where people are starting to push back on it more. It used to be a lot more accepted someone would just say whatever accusation, everyone would run with it. Now I see a lot more people either standing up for themselves or people just providing evidence against it. But that's one thing that I took issue with. Like, I've always been a metalhead since I was 13 or 14 or so. And it just is weird to me to see a fan base, a community that prides itself on being like critical thinkers and being against the grain and standing up for themselves, falling into these like echo chamber ways of thoughts or just repeating things without digging into any context about it. And like you were saying with the metal threat situation, if we're talking about white supremacy and metal or whatever, I personally don't want to go to a festival that's all like NSBM bands, but I also know that there's fucking literally nothing I could do about that if other people wanted to. And what, like, that's, I kind of feel like saying you want to stomp out racism, white supremacy in metal is like saying you want to stomp that out of the earth. Like, it's a nice thought. It's not going to happen. And it doesn't mean that you support it or take part in it, but it's just like, I don't know, a small festival of neo-Nazi bands playing. I don't care about that. I think if anybody, whether they were, you know, some people will say they're neo-Nazi bands, some of them aren't really, but just, I got tired of throwing labels on everything. Metalheads trying to cancel bands for, you know, normally something that they would have stood up for the metal band back in the day, like Fifth was on Jerry Springer back in the 80s or whatever, and someone's saying this Marilyn Manson's satanic Nazi, there'd be people standing up saying, no, it's for the art form. And now I feel like so many metal people have gone to the other side and just want to slander anyone as much as they can.
Yeah, there's this really... I remember listening to a Jello Biafra spoken word record, and that the record was recorded in, I think, 1987. I can't even remember what the album was called, but he made this joke that at the time, because I was maybe about 14 years old when I heard it, and at the time I was really offended. He was like, you know, you'll never, no gym teacher in the world will ever get people to dress as similar as the average metal concert does. And I was like, you know, at the time, you're like, fucking dare you, know, it's all about free speech, free expression. I've gone back to that an awful lot in the last couple of years in my head, and I was like, shit, maybe Jello was onto something.
You're like,
there's an awful lot, as I've grown older, I'm like, awful lot I don't agree with him on, but, you know, he kind of had a point there. And I'm slightly older than you, so I grew up in the days of the PMRC and of the Satanic Panic and of all of that sort of stuff. You know, and for me, it was always... It doesn't matter if you like the band or not, but, you know, people have a right to do whatever they want, and I have a right to listen to it or not. I'm 100% with you when it comes to Metal Threat. The point that I made on the segment that I recorded for this show was I don't like Argos Lent. I don't support fucking Graveland's message or anything like that. But if people want to watch that, it makes no difference to me. It's no different to me that, you know, if somebody goes and watches Agriculture or fucking Dawn Raid or some communist band, I find communism just as disgusting as fascism.
Oh yeah.
But I'm not going to sit here and go like, I'm literally shaking. You know, the promoter needs to be jailed. These bands need to be banned because they're saying something that I don't agree with.
I'm going to cancel this band because they're going to play a show with them later on a different stage. It's exactly the same for me. It's like, I never heard of Argos Lent until that situation happened, and I looked it up and I was like, not my thing. But I'm the same with you. Like, there are so many other ideologies that are as evil as fascism, but those bands can either be promoted, people can go see them. There's usually not a problem. People are complaining about it. And then, I don't know. It's just like you're saying, you came up in the times of the PMRC and you saw these bands, artists being labeled as things they actually weren't. And then to see that happening now with quote unquote fans, it's just like, let people enjoy what they want to enjoy, even if you don't like it. And the thing with Metal Threat and these neo-Nazi bands, like, how come you're not talking to all of the Latino and non-white people who went to Metal Threat who were watching the bands? I heard from a lot of people, at least half the crowd was not white.
Yeah,
so, go talk to them.
Well, dude, the most surreal experience I've ever had over here. It's so severe with the the fucking woke mob patrolling what you may and may not listen to, that when a band like Destroyer 666 rolls into town, they have to do the show in secret. So they did their show, I think this was 2 years ago, at a gay bar called Fire. And it was like literally like you buy tickets, they email you an hour beforehand, we're going to be here, and it was them, Necro Ritual, and a couple of other bands. But the crowd was probably the most diverse crowd I've ever seen at a metal show. Everyone was having a fucking great time. Clearly because of the clientele that the club tends to cater to. You know, they have a certain kind of staff. Everyone there seemed to have a fucking blast. And my wife isn't into metal at all, doesn't come from the metal scene. And I had a conversation with her afterwards, and she's like, that's the friendliest audience I've ever seen in my life. And she didn't know about any of the drama and the backstory. I said, you know that like this is like one of the most banned and fucking, reviled bands in certain corners of the world. And you've obviously just attended a show by them. And she actually met KK because KK was sort of standing off to the side, and he noticed me and walked over to me and like held out his hand, and I was suddenly clocked, oh fuck, it's KK. And I put my hand out. I was like, how's it going? Nice to meet you. And he's like, yeah, nice to meet you, mate. I said, I've been following your stuff for a long time. We've got a couple of friends in common. I joked and I said, you should come on my podcast at some point. And he goes, no, mate, you don't want me on your podcast.
You're like, I don't know, I kind of do. That sounds a lot of fun.
But, crazy.
It's it's at that point where like if Destroyer 666 is playing, they have to send you a secret notification. Wow. The closest I had to that was I used to live in the Bay Area of California, and around I think 2016 or so, when that first significant election happened, bands like Watain, I think they might have been touring with Destroyer 666 actually, were getting canceled from venues like San Francisco, and that was really pissing me off because, like you said, but you usually want to, if the band is described as the most like grotesque, horrible, vile thing, that used to make metalheads interested. Be like, oh, I gotta go check that out, rather than be like,
100%. Yeah, 100%. I mean, like think about the climate as it. Well, let's say at its peak, I'd say the peak was about 2021. Like summer of 2021 was the peak to me.
Yeah,
and I think that's where everybody looked at it and was like, okay, maybe some of this is not for us anymore. But if you think about that, the climate at the time, and I mean, even to a certain degree today, I mean, you mentioned Marilyn Manson earlier,
right?
Would Marilyn Manson, all other scandals in his private life aside, would an artist like Marilyn Manson even be able to exist today? I mean, I don't think so.
All the alternative people would be against him, saying he's a Nazi and horrible and can't be around. That's why I didn't know about it, but there's an old interview with Ozzy Osbourne where it's been mentioned in a lot of like funniest of Ozzy compilation clips, because in the beginning of the interview, Ozzy acts out of his mind like high, and it's funny. But I watched the whole interview and he quickly drops that, and he maybe not have been sober, but he was aware of where he was, what he was saying, and he became real in the interview and was talking about his personal life and stuff. The interviewer asked him, who inspired you to get on stage, Ozzy? Without even thinking about it, he goes, Adolf Hitler. And I'm like,
I remember that.
Yeah, I'd never heard that happen ever. And when I first heard, I was like, what?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, how come? I don't want people to be like, oh, Ozzy was a Nazi. I'm like, how come I've literally never heard anyone mention this? And then for other artists, they'll go like, oh, he's a Nazi because he got a weird looking tattoo a long time ago, or this whatever thing. Like,
he played keyboards on one. I mean, I've had this for because I had Spellgoth from Horner on the podcast, and everyone was like, "Oh, how can you have him on the show?" I was like, "Fucking easy." Number one, he's a great guy. Number two, he literally played keyboards on one half of a Pest Noir album. That doesn't make him a Nazi.
No,
like I grew up in South Africa. I was in the literal belly of the beast of white supremacy.
Oh yeah.
I was born in 1980, so obviously, I think Nelson Mandela was released in, I believe, 1992. First democratic elections were 1994. In 1993, I was in the 8th grade, and half of my class, like literally half, used to go to basically the equivalent of like neo-Nazi youth movement groups on a Saturday morning, training for when the black people take over South Africa and kill them. It was fucking insane. So I've seen white supremacy firsthand. I've fought against white supremacy for the biggest chunk of my life. I know who's a fucking white supremacist and who's not.
Yeah.
And I can tell you right now, a lot of the people that get accused of it, whether it's Spellgoth, whether it's Nas from Ecclese, whether it's Brock from Panzerfaust, it's like, dude, I know these people. And I can tell you right now, they're fucking very far from being white supremacists.
Right. And it's, I find that a lot of people who were faced with real racism, whether it was like moments from the deep south of America, which could still happen, or in your situation, like obviously South Africa, when you've seen real racism and real racist people who are not, there's going to be no sugarcoating other planes, they'll fucking let you know.
Oh yeah. They're not shy about it. I mean, it really is one of the ugliest, most low resolution, I don't know whether you would call it a philosophy, but like an approach to life that you could possibly ever encounter. I mean, it is the preserve of absolute fucking morons.
Right.
But again, because I've seen it, because I've had, I've been in many a fist fight with a white supremacist. I know who is one and who isn't, and I can tell you right now, if the dudes I just listed, and a bunch of other people, if you consider them to be white supremacists, they're pretty fucking bad at it.
Yeah.
They're not gonna be sticking around in the white supremacist gang for very long.
So you've literally physically fought harder against white supremacy than these Redditors.
Yeah. Which is the funniest thing is like when people go on about. There was once I made a comment, and again, this was also on Reddit. I made a comment about Randy Blythe and said I can't fucking stand the guy. And I mean, I just have a way of talking, and you sort of throw something out, and I can't. I think he's a blowhard. He likes the sound of his own voice. Most of what comes out of his mouth, especially when he starts talking about politics, is unbearably stupid.
It's pretty shallow. Randy is inspiring for me as a musician and performer, but I agree. I don't.
I like him as a frontman, and I love Lamb of God's music. I just don't think the dude is my kind of. He's just not my kind of guy. So.
I agree.
but so one guy was like commented on there. What's his name? Looking at the way he looks, I can tell who he would vote for.
Yeah, like, okay, what does that even mean?
No septum piercing, no blue hairs. Sorry.
Right, yeah. I was adding to the point I was saying earlier about people who've really faced real racism. It's the people complaining on Reddit, calling every band Slaughter to Prevail, Nazis, whatever. Those are the people who are usually the most sheltered and have not actually faced these situations.
Wow.
They're like come across real racism. That's why they think everything is actually like that. But I actually agree with you on the point that real, genuine racism is pretty stupid and disgusting. And I've mentioned before, I've had a genuine debate with people who identify themselves as racist and aren't hiding it. And taking away the emotion of like, how fucking dare you? It just does not add up on paper to me how one would be superior to the other. So that's like, I've had conversations where I'm not like, you're a piece of shit, but like, okay, try to convince me. And I'm like, you didn't convince me. And it's just, so when I know myself to that point, and I know like, okay, when I've seen real racists and know like, I don't agree with them, they're stupid. So I can see other people definitely are not when everyone's crying about it online. It's just people with not a lot of life experience or knowledge on the outside world, I think, too.
Well, that's the thing. I think an awful lot of the people that go down that road where they become keyboard warriors and where they are accusing everybody of being a racist or every other person is a Nazi, they live in such a closeted echo chamber, and every bit of input they get in their feedback loop just reinforces their way of thinking.
Right.
The vast majority of them, and this is why they get so bent out of shape when you try and have a proper debate with them, they can't deal with it. And then they start to scream, and they start to lose their minds, and it's like, I mean, I would say it's worse. Yeah, I've been to Nashville not too long ago, and my impression of Nashville and Phoenix, where I spent a couple of days as well, like in America, it still seems to be a little bit more chilled out, even though social media would suggest otherwise, but it seems to be a bit more chilled out than it is here, and that it is in France and in Germany. I mean, there it's like there's real negative energy and bad mojo going on between people. But I've started to try and engage people in conversation about certain things here, and there's just no point. So eventually I've just kind of given up. I'm like, think whatever you want. I don't give a fuck. I don't want to speak to you about this topic anymore.
I get to that point too. It's hard because like part of me is that feeling of like, no, it's important to engage in real conversation because someone willing to talk to you can change your perspective and you want to share that. But then other times like, you're clearly such a fucking idiot acting in bad faith where you're like, you're clearly intentionally not trying to understand it all. So why am I fucking talking to you? It's always in between one or the other. It's really hard. I balance between them myself.
The thing about it is a lot of people, when they try and become political, they look at the completely wrong things. Yeah. And so because they're focused on the wrong things, and when I say the wrong things, I'm talking about short-term, social media-driven social issues that, in the grand scheme of things, don't mean don't mean anything.
Right.
And where I learned that lesson, a friend of mine once explained it to me this way. He said, if somebody brings up Bill Clinton to you, what's the first thing that comes to mind? And I said Monica Lewinsky, and he says, okay, does the fact that he got a blowjob in the White House impact your life today whatsoever? And the answer, of course, is no. I said, does the fact that he allowed China into the World Trade Organization, that he signed a really bogus nuclear treaty with North Korea, does that influence your life? Yes. Mm-hmm. And that was a real eureka moment for me. And I was like, I get where you're coming from now. And I mean, it's been a fucking laundry list of stupid shit in the current administration and in the previous Trump administration, whether it's Russiagate. Now I see they're trying to drum up some sort of drama around Epstein, even though Virginia Guthrie has already said, yeah, he was there, but he had nothing to do with it. There's emails telling him to stop. There's other people saying he kicked them out of Mar-a-Lago. It's like, it's so obviously stupid. And honestly, even if he was in there, yes, it's morally, it's absolutely horrible, and you could argue there should be ramifications for it, but that it won't, in the long term, it won't have an impact on your or my life. Not at all.
Yeah, that is true. Unfortunately, I'm definitely someone who's like it. I would prefer every single person be held accountable, but looking at the way the world is, realistically, it's probably not going to happen. I support every effort to make it. Like, If you see my social media, not on YouTube, I do spend a lot of time posting political stuff because I just get so fucking annoyed with things I see. A lot of people who spend time on Reddit will assume that I'm right-wing, conservative, or a Trump supporter. I think I'm really just more anti the radical left than I am like pro full right or anything. So I do spend more time outing them and making fun of them and shit. But when Trump did blatantly just cover up Epstein and say, stop talking about it, I was like, guys, here's your ammunition. Like, do it. It's looking in terms of political game. Like, you guys completely ignored it and didn't give a shit about it until you could use it against Trump. But looking at it as like a chess piece, shouldn't you be making this move now? But yeah, the world is a strange, interesting place right now. It's weird for me when I hear from people who are much older. Like, I caught a clip of Sharon Osbourne on their latest podcast.
To say, don't say I'm much old.
No. You're not Sharon Osbourne old. But Sharon said that things are more politically divided now than ever. And I'm like, how many administrations and things have she lived through? How many people at that have been through other times and are saying that now it feels like a time where it's more divided than ever? I feel like that's something a lot of the current generation can't even look at. Like you mentioned, current topics are so forced in your face and forgot about in a week. You don't notice the big things that are actually happening that actually have significant impact. And unfortunately, a lot of metal fans, metal heads have gone into that narrow vision of they think they're rebels fighting against the system, but they supported Kamala and watched all of the Democrat shows and don't think outside the echo chamber at all. And I always say, whenever I do fully talk about it, like when I talked about Iron Savior canceled a show in America because they were afraid of the Trump administration. And even in that video, it was like, I'm not saying this band should be pro-Trump MAGA. I'm saying they could come here and say fuck you all they want and be totally fine. You can be open to being against one is not always being pro the other. Back in my day, it was every politician was up on the table to be mocked. I still hold that view. Like when people were, internet like rage bait channels were talking about decapitating Trump and everything. I'm like, this is fine. Every politician is acceptable in the mockery, I think, no matter if I support them, if I don't support them. It's strange how politically boxed in a lot of the metal scene is. I feel like a lot of them still live in the 2016 mindset. I've gotten lots of comments on my more spicier videos where I'm like, this thing has been debunked for years, right? And they just keep going on. I'm like, okay.
But you know why that is? It's because they treat politics like religion.
Yeah.
So I was having a conversation with that same friend of mine that I mentioned, that I referred to earlier. I was talking to him a couple of days ago, and we were just talking generally about politics. And he and I both grew up not just around the fucking, white nationalists, but we also grew up around people that were they were 2 steps away from Westboro Baptist Church. That's how deeply entrenched they were in Christianity. And the thing that you realize with those people is they're like the ultimate salespeople. They always have an answer to any objection that you raise.
Yes.
My father got shot by burglars. Oh, well, that's just God's plan. It's like it's that sort of thing. You go, anything you throw at them, they always have a response to, and it doesn't matter what you say to them, you cannot deprogram them.
Yeah.
It's like they're in a cult, and I'm afraid to say this, but a lot of extreme leftism, and probably the same with people on the far right, but I see it more on the communist extreme left-wing side of things. They are in a cult, and it doesn't matter what you fucking say to them, they just won't. Nothing you say will convince them. They'll always have an answer, and they'll keep fucking banging on about convicted felon, Russiagate, and I can guarantee you, next thing it's going to be Epstein. But here's a point that I would raise when it comes to, if anybody has any designs on actually being successful in life. Here's a question that I would raise. Do you think that Jensen Huang from NVIDIA, do you think he spends 5 seconds of his day giving a fuck about what's in the Epstein files, or I have no idea. whether Horner is going to be playing at a show in some other place? Like, Eugene Robinson from Oxbow actually mentioned this on an episode of Everything Went Black, and I was like, you've fucking got it nailed right there. I mean, he and I differ on a lot of things, but the one thing that he said is, like, all the people in the world that have achieved true success, they don't focus on any of this micro level bullshit.
No, not all. And I feel it myself. I have that inner voice. I'll find myself scrolling on Twitter, diving into some stupid shit, wasting my time when I know I have other things to do, and then I have that thought of other successful people that I've heard from an interview, and I think it was Elon on Joe Rogan. He's saying, like, his social media is like he spends maybe 30 minutes looking at the main stuff and then turns it off, moves on. And I'm like, that's the way you got to do it. I've kind of stopped using Twitter for the most part now. I still have it, but I kind of check it and then just turn it off. But yeah, it's easy to get so hyper focused into something that's right in your face, even if it's clearly bad for you, which is what a lot of politics are shifted and made to be nowadays with the whole cult mindset of it. What was I going to go with that? But it's funny because I used to be on that side. I actually used to be I definitely was a leftist. Maybe you could argue far leftist, but at the time when Antifa was first starting, I remember being like, ooh, I might like that. See how far I've come now. But so I understand how that mindset works. The programming is basically, because the majority of a lot of them are pretty fucking evil, but most of the people in that echo chamber cult do genuinely believe that they're operating from a good side and think they are being the empathetic person, but it's like everything they've been taught to do is the complete opposite of that. That's why you find far leftists saying some of those racist shit you've ever heard. I see that happen a lot. But and it's a cult mind can happen in anything. There's bands that have cult-minded followers, dealing with dogma people earlier.
Yeah.
But so there's certainly, I've seen cult-minded on the far right with Christian white nationalists, but I would argue there's not as many of them as other people think.
Yeah.
People think that everyone who supported Trump or likes anything Trump says is a white nationalist. I'm like, it's actually quite few. There's some in there. But as I've spent more time around people who had different opinions than what I grew up with and opened me up to new perspectives, you could say, I find way more diversity in either the center leaning right, or right side than I do at the left right now. The left is anything you say that's out of turn, you're booted out immediately. With the right, I've found far more people that I can have strong disagreements on certain issues, but we can talk about them and communicate and then talk about other things. And I realized maybe around 21, 22, COVID years, that I much more would rather listen to people that I sometimes agree with rather than I agree with 100% all the time. On any side of anything. But I do try to be pretty open with far leftists, be like, all right, explain it to me. But usually I fall more into the you're a fucking idiot. I came up in a time when debate was encouraged. I used to watch Christopher Hitchens drunk off his ass debating with bishops and everything. And I came up with Penn and Teller's Bullshit was a show I used to watch. And it was always the side that got emotional and couldn't answer was usually the loser or the lying side. So when I caught people I was supposed to agree with doing it, I'm like, why can't you answer that question? That's really what kind of broke me out of the echo chamber mindset that a lot of that side has. But it's like I said earlier, I definitely am more right-leaning now than left-leaning, but I still don't consider myself on any side. As soon as right-leaning people do something I don't like, I call them out on it. As soon as left-leaning, I call them out on it too. But it's only the people on the left who have that mindset of like, if you don't agree with us 1,000%, you are a Nazi. Even if you're a gay black person, you're still a Nazi.
Well, I mean, I actually think the response to black people that side with the Republicans or themselves are, in Republican Congress, I think is absolutely disgraceful. They're called Uncle Toms. They're called coconuts. They're like, it's just the most vile, demeaning thing imaginable, because you're basically saying to them, you cannot make up your own. You can't think for yourself.
Oh yeah.
And so if you don't fall in line with my way of thinking, then you don't meet the criteria for me to consider you a valid representative of the race or the creed or whatever it is that you come from. I mean, I thought Biden's quote was particularly rich. I think he said this on Charlemagne, like, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black. Oh, yeah. I mean, I guarantee you at least 500,000 black people said, no problem, mate.
Yeah, they're like, sure.
We won't be voting for you anymore.
Absolutely. And it's only usually the left side you catch doing the code switching, they call it. If they're in a more predominantly black community, they'll start talking that ghetto accent. People on the right usually talk in their normal accent no matter what. Like, no matter where Kamala was, she changed her accent. And even if people hate Trump, no matter where he goes, he doesn't change his fucking accent to try to sound cool.
What's his name? Hillary Clinton talking on, I think this was also on Charlemagne. She's like, I've got hot sauce in my handbag. I was like, holy shit, you're a fucking idiot.
How do you guys not see this pandering right in your face? Or like when Obama was telling black men they had to vote for Kamala to prove their like black loyalty or whatever. It's what you were saying, the slurs that they get. My friends of mine who are YouTubers who talk more either on the political or like culture war spectrum of things, they get the most racist comments I've ever seen from people using the words that those people would say are bad and you should never say. It's fucking absurd. To me, like, I feel much more anti-hypocrisy than I am pro any political party or anything.
Yeah.
My philosophy is usually just hold up a mirror to these people and be like, do you see what you're doing?
The thing is, I don't think that you can be a truly principled person and not consider yourself to be a centrist. And the reason I say that is I was always taught that when you make a decision who you're going to vote for, you assume in the first instance that you're never going to agree with every single thing that the candidate you voted for stands for, says, or will do. Secondly, you assess the available candidates against your own principles and against your own opinions, your own beliefs, and you go, okay, this person most closely matches the way that I think, and therefore I'm going to vote for that person. That's how you should vote. But again, I don't believe if you boldly proclaim that I'm of the left or I'm this or I'm that. I don't think you can think that way.
Yeah.
Because we've seen in the last, if you look at American politics in the last, say, 75 years, there's been a very significant shift on both sides in terms of policy.
Oh, yeah.
The Republicans have become the big tent party. Democrats have gone from endorsing the KKK to trying to pretend that they've friends of the inner city. There's a lot of things that change, and so again, you can't necessarily identify with one or the other. You need to identify with yourself and have your own policy positions in the first instance, and then go, which of the two candidates most closely aligned to that.
I completely agree. Yeah, you have to have your own set of ideals. I've always there's nothing wrong with, some would say, picking and choosing from different philosophies what applies to you and what doesn't. And that's my thought with politics. I used to be, when I was younger, didn't know anything, considered myself on the left. And then when I left the left, I don't say I'm on the right. I basically say I'm not playing your fucking game. But it's... I just forgot what I was going to say right there. When it comes to people being so ideologically driven, especially with the last election, neither one was, if I could, pick my ultimate person to run a country, it would not have been either of them. But I was looking at more kind of like a board game of, to get to where you think things should go, we're going to go, what piece are you going to move now? It doesn't mean you are fully dedicated and worshiping this puzzle piece. It's just the next thing right there. If you want to really get into it, I have a hard time believing there even was a choice in the last election. But
I don't necessarily disagree with you. I mean, my view, the question was raised when I do the news rant. I sometimes open it for questions. I'm like, email me your questions before and I'll answer them. I said, the one thing I said about the US election, as I said, people can scratch around in the dirt, complaining about shit, acting like the world's coming to an end, or you can assess the changes to the game, realize that it's the same, that the game, there might be a couple of rule shifts, but the game itself hasn't changed.
Oh yeah,
and you can make that work to your advantage, which is exactly what I do.
Exactly,
which is exactly what I've learned to do over the course of the last, I'd say, 8 years of my life in particular. I wish I had learned that much sooner in my life. I would have been in a far better position than I am right now. Not that I'm in a bad position, but I would have been far further ahead in life had I done that. But again, you learn as you grow older. And the advice I would give anybody is understand, whoever is in office doesn't really fucking matter. Just understand. Just your what you should do is assess what the rules now, what the rules of the game are for the next 4 years. Determine how you make that work to your advantage.
Exactly. I completely agree with that. No matter who was president, like if the other side won that I really didn't want to win, I wouldn't be spending the 4 years going, oh my God. I'd be thinking, how do you do the best with what you can, even if it's not particularly the most amazing situations. Funny enough, to that same idea, but kind of bringing it down to a humble level, what helped me kind of realize that's more important to focus on what you can really affect in your life was rereading The Lord of the Rings and thinking about just kind of like the hobbits and how they're really simple and they weren't getting engaged with otherworldly events. But Gandalf has such appreciation for them and says that it's because they're small folk who focus on the good of them and everything rather than trying to be like great rulers or whatever. And that kind of stuck with me a little bit and be like, I could, whether I just to use the Israel-Palestine war, for example, whether I was super one side or the other, I could spend my time, my life, with all my energy and focus on that and ignore the things around me in my real life, or I can realize what I have power over and what I don't and focus on using my energy the best I can for what I can truly affect in a good way. It's like, I'm not saying don't care about any issue that's global or whatever, but it comes to a point where, like you're saying with the Monica Lewinsky one, people were probably obsessed with that.
Oh, they were. They 100% were.
Yeah. And then what effect does that have on their life now? What could they have done in that time if they weren't focused on that? That's kind of where I am with the Epstein thing, where I'm like, I definitely want it to come out. I definitely want everyone responsible to be held accountable. Whether it does or doesn't, how does that affect directly what I am doing? If I get to the moment where I'm looking down the barrel and I'm about to die, am I really going to go, oh, the Epstein files?
Yeah. Oh, God damn it. If only I'd done more to get the Epstein files released.
Yeah. And And I felt like when Trump very clearly was like, "Stop asking me about this," that did start a pretty good shift on the center right. Of some people are like, "Well, we're not fucking letting that go," and then other people are like, "All right, well, I'm going to go in line with Trump and see what he does." And that was interesting to watch. I definitely have more respect for people who are kind of stand by like, no, we need to see these. Like if you paid attention during the election, he specifically never really said that he was gonna do it. So that's true. But everyone around him did. Everyone in his group was hyper focused on it because they knew they would use it. I never once thought they were gonna come out.
Yeah, it's. I mean, again, I looked at that. I'm kind of with you. I respected the people that stuck to their guns and said, no, we still want to see this, but at the same time, it's never been a factor for me that would influence my thinking on anything. It's a horrible thing. I hope everybody that was responsible is held to account. But at the same time, I mean, I think also that's just scratching the surface of what these fucking politicians and these elites get up to. It's an interesting point you make about Lord of the Rings. My daughter is a big fan of Lord of the Rings, and by extension, therefore, so am I. I mean, I love it anyway. But we watch the movies at least twice a year, and I know exactly what quote it is that kind of got you thinking that way. It's that incredible Gandalf quote where he says, "All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to us."
Right.
And that actually had a very profound influence on me as well when I first heard it.
Yeah, it's funny where you can find influence from, and usually people who are, I mean, not saying people should read Lord of the Rings, but people who are more either well read on history or literature tend to have a little bit more of a wider context on things. I would say, especially studying history, I think is a big one. I tend to be a war history buff aficionado, I guess you could say. And then when
first signs of being member of the far right, mate.
Right, yeah. The skin color wasn't enough already. I do.
Sunglasses was the giveaway.
Right. But when you just study like political strategies throughout time and then see things either repeated now or things that were so focused on at the time that didn't turn out the way people thought it was going to be, it really carries into now in a greater context. I was one of those people when Trump first got elected in 2016. I was one of those people who was afraid and thought there'd be like military helicopters flying in the sky the next day. Clearly that didn't happen. And I find it amazing that so many people couldn't reflect and be like, oh yeah, all those things didn't happen. They just, when he started running again, they immediately went to Hitler's back, instead of being like, oh, he never did any of the things people kept saying he was going to do.
I even saw stuff again today about, because obviously, as I said to you, they're trying to drum up this nonsense about the Epstein files, which to my mind, if there was anything in there, they would have done something about it in 2017. It's not that they somehow found a new revelation now.
Oh, right. When Trump got in office, they just happened to find all this stuff with his name on it.
Yeah.
And especially the thing that came out today, the quote was from Virginia, who had exonerated Trump like over and over again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So people are like, oh, they better release it, or he's probably gonna start the Third World War to stop it from happening. It's like he's actually been one of the most anti-war presidents that we've had in a very fucking long time.
Yeah.
So, and I say we, I mean, the US, but by extension the world, because if the US gets involved in something, many of us have to get involved in it too. But you know what I mean? It's like he's been one of the most anti-war presidents around. So to think that that's what he's going to do to prevent the Epstein files from being... I mean, you have to be just chronically fucking idiotic. It's either total fucking illiteracy of everything that goes on in the world on a day-to-day basis, completely historically illiterate, but I must question your intelligence about that. Another one, actually, you mentioned Elon Musk. I've mentioned this on the podcast before. You can love the guy or hate the guy, but if you call him stupid, the conversation that I have with you is immediately done.
Immediately, yeah.
You cannot talk about someone who has excelled to that degree. And not just excelled, but I mean, like Jensen, we brought him up the other day. Jensen said, like, he is the most brilliant engineer I've ever met in my life. Yeah. I mean, he is as most apolitical as you can get. Right. And if he says it, that has some fucking weight. I mean, I'm notwithstanding, I can see with my own eyes. But I mean, when people say, "Oh, he's a fucking idiot," it's like, There's nothing further for us to discuss.
Yeah, it's like,
there's no point debating you. You are a fucking moron.
yeah, like Elon's the idiot, but this Reddit sophomore kid is the one that knows what's
Yeah.
going on.
But you sitting on, claiming unemployment benefits, sitting around, fucking around on your laptop, and posting, flaming people on social media. You're a genius.
Oh yeah, you're the one who knows what's going on. And then they will say things that, like I said before, were disproven years ago, but they still go off of. One of the first things that made me kind of be like, oh yeah, was actually a quote from Ben Shapiro, who I'm not a fan of. I have a lot of disagreements with. I actually find his like movie commentary funny, but politically I have a lot of disagreements. But he was on Joe Rogan, one of the first episodes I heard, and something he said was that people say that Donald Trump is an evil genius or he's a complete idiot. I'm like, well, which is it? Is he either a complete idiot, doesn't know what he's doing, or is an evil genius? He can't be both. And that was the first time I was like, oh yeah. So that already kind of gets in the way of the sentiment there. For me, yeah, I try to have honest, genuine conversations politically, culturally with people. But if they go with, sometimes it happens, well, they'll send a long comment and I'll start being like, maybe they are going to reveal something I didn't know. And then they go, Elon Musk is a white supremacist Nazi and Donald Trump was on a mission to like invade every country and Elon Musk was the real president. I'm like, we're done. I'm not talking.
I'm about to say when fucking there's some imbecile from MSNBC sitting there crying, going, "This is it now. Elon Musk runs the country." It's like, oh my god, you're fucking stupid.
No one, when Elon Musk was kind of sort of kicked out of the Trump administration there suspiciously, no one was like, "Oh, I guess he's not the real president." They just moved on to the next thing.
Oh yeah. But that's what always happens. I mean, they never correct themselves. Like no one ever has the wherewithal to go, "Hey, I made a mistake. I was not right about this." And I accept the fact that my judgment was maybe a little off. But I mean, if we pivot to music, people are like that with music as well. Dude, you've done some tier 1 investigative work around this Dogma fiasco. And I to be honest with you, and I mean this seriously, I didn't even know who the fuck they were until you started talking about them.
A lot of people said that, and I've seen some people saying that, like, I'd never heard of this band. This is probably all fake to, like, bump them up. And I'm like, no, I can assure you, I unfortunately heard of this band a lot before. They, like, every time for a while I'd go on Instagram, social media, their videos were popping up in the algorithm. I can confirm that they were around before this whole drama situation happened, which is really hilarious.
So, I mean, I know there was something else that had come out today, abuse of members and AI being used for interviews.
Yeah.
It just seems like the plot just seems to just never stop thickening.
It does. It's really strange how these stories go. There's been a couple of metal stories lately where it just keeps happening like that. You wonder, like, this band has a lot of like really fucked up problems, and that situation is just funny to me because as soon as I saw the band, I just got the vibe that it was fake. Like, I'm all for hot, sexy women playing metal, cool, but this felt really try hard, like trying to catch like a trend type of thing. Then all this information started coming out. Turns out every female musician had been hit up to join the band at one point, it seems. But yeah, today, one of the musicians, I think it was the guitarist, released a bit longer statement on what happened. And in part of it, she said that during interviews, she was given like AI-generated answers for things. And earlier, when I was going on the Reddit thread, I found that was having issues with me. One guy was complaining about people just talking about the drama with Dogma. I go and look on his channel. He has an interview with Dogma, but the interview is questions that he gave the management like a week ago, and then they handed him a piece of paper with the answers, and he was reading it off, and it was just such AI-generated bullshit. I'm like,
what?
You couldn't tell this? You couldn't tell that this was a fake interview? Go back and listen to the things they said. Nobody talks like that.
Jesus. How the fuck? So I've joked about this a lot on this on this podcast. There was like quite a few years ago when I started my channel, my podcast, I once sent I got an email from a record label. Record label said band X is available. I'll say the band's name. Cattle Decapitation's available for interview. I said I'd love to speak to Travis if you'd want to come on the show. And the guy goes, yes, send me your questions and I'll have him email you the answers. And I was like, it's a long-form conversational podcast. What in the fuck do you think I'm supposed to do? Sit and read the answers?
Yeah.
And the fact that somebody actually did that, that's just insane.
It's crazy. Like they literally like read the answer and then had the AI voice like say, I was like, what the fuck?
Holy shit.
Yeah,
but dude, Ghost to me was like pushing the envelope as far as like something that felt pre-packaged and fake. Again, I don't understand. I mean, if you like politics and stuff aside, this let's use a phrase that would be at home in The Sopranos. This pussy assness that's crept into metal makes me sick. The fact that people can support rubbish like Dogma, Castle Rat, things like that. Like, I mean, again, I came from the school where, like the first female-fronted band, like all-female band I was into was L7. And if you go back and you listen to L7, even though they were grunge, they had some fucking cool songs. Yeah. And their lyrics, what made it so awesome was they genuinely sang about topics from a female perspective that were powerful, that like landed with you. And like as a man, you can listen to it and you can go, like, I can feel where you're coming from. Yeah. This crap is just like basically just a bunch of lesbians licking each other on stage. It's basically like a different version of baby metal.
It kind of is, yeah. It's a much worse version, I would say. Baby metal's another confusing one because everyone kind of knows that's basically a manufactured product, but a lot of people still like it. And I'm like, all right. It's if I had to choose between baby metal and Dogma, I would definitely choose baby metal. But I mean, that's a pretty hard situation to be in.
It's like if you have to choose between, cauliflower and leather, it's like, which one am I going to go for?
Dry dog shit, wet dog shit. But yeah, when it comes to this, like, for lack of a better word, pussification in metal for a lot of people, I've noticed this in the Dogma situation and also in the Cradle of Filth situation a little bit, where it's these people who say they're for the women empowerment and artists and, standing up for yourself and whatever, but then they're take the side of the official band because they like the music. So because they like the music, that means that the singer has to be right, they have to be wrong, whatever. And I find myself in situations where I can differ with someone politically, but I'm defending them like public in the situation because I can see that they were in the right when other people just jump on the smear campaign. I just want metal people to be able to think more, I guess. It was more like pushed to be critical thinking before, and now it's a lot more in line. And the thing is that there's a lot of bands who have issues with how things are now too. I've heard from some bands like behind the scenes who are, you could say, more based in private than they would be in public situations. It's just such a strange thing, and I kind of balance between the line of being like trying to, I guess, respectfully, nicely be like, hey, don't be so offended by everything. This isn't for that, but also being like, fuck off, you fucking pussy. Some people push back. Some people wonder, like, are you really into metal? Are you like in here to change it? And just, it's a lot of times it seems like that. Like, I have a problem with how offensive metal is, but I don't like blast beats or screams. I don't wear metal clothes. And like, you don't have to do those things to be metal. But when someone clearly looks like you don't even, what about metal do you like to where you're complaining about it so much?
Well, I mean, at its simplest, the problem is when somebody screams, you're spreading hate, because you've spoken about a certain band or you've interviewed a certain band or you've said something, you look at them and you go like, what kind of fucking genre do you think you're listening to?
Yeah.
I mean, we got bands called Hate Eternal. They're not called fucking, Tolerance Eternal, Acceptance Eternal. So.
Right. I think I did something about this same subject about metalheads being so offended by everything, or a lot of people claiming to be metalheads being offended by things now. And I had some people comment saying things like, back when metal was considered so offensive, it was because they were being attacked for who they were, and they were pushing against what was like oppressing them. It wasn't just about being edgy. And I was like, dying fetus, guar. What are you talking? Anal cunt. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like, it's completely
Cannibal Corpse. Read the lyrics to Tomb of the Mutilated, for God's sakes.
Yeah. It used to be like the more grotesque you heard a band was, you're like, oh, I gotta like everyone got into black metal because we heard of all the fucked up stories.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I mean, I've said before, I got my curiosity was piqued around black metal because I saw an article where there was a picture of Varg on one side of the magazine, and on the other side of the magazine there was a picture of Ice-T, and I was like, I need to check out both of these styles of music. I got into like old school gangster rap and black metal around about the same time.
That's awesome.
And of course, you know, black metal is kind of the thing that I would say. I mean, I listen to a very, very wide variety of music in my personal life, but black metal is kind of the thing that's my first love. But you know, again, it got peaked not because I was like, hey, there's this incredibly tolerant music scene where,
yeah, right.
You know, everyone just loves each other and all are welcome to participate. I was like, who's this cat holding the knife in front of his face?
Right.
And I mean, the first black metal album I heard was Battles in the North. And when I heard that, like the switch was just flicked. I was like, holy shit, this is fucking incredible.
Nice. But you weren't like, oh, it's such a accepting community where everyone feels safe and warm.
Yeah, no.
Safe space.
I wasn't like, oh, you know, you know what's great about this Battles in the North record? It makes me feel like, you know, like everyone is accepted, everyone's supposed.
Yeah. Yeah, it's metal for me was accepting of everyone, no matter where you came from or what you believed in. If you liked metal for what it was,
yes,
that was the thing. Like, you have to like what it is, and then you don't come in and then change it. Like, if you like metal, it doesn't matter if you're a black kid from Africa or from Japan or Taiwan or Indonesia or anywhere. When I go to metal festivals in Europe, I meet people from all over the world, and no one's ever like, oh, you're not supposed to like this one because of where you came from or whatever. But at the same time, everyone there is there for the shared purpose of the bands and the music, not because they're like, oh, we all have the exact same political views on everything. Which is what I find weird too, to kind of go that subject a little bit, was metal is such a global phenomenon, but then far leftists will act like it's only for people on the left. If anyone likes anything Trump has ever said, then metal's not for you. And I'm always like, how do you apply that for countries like Japan or China, where they have these really fierce, some of them have really fierce totalitarian governments? Do you do that? Do you ask them what their political stances are and then dictate if they're allowed metal or not? How they feel about the Chinese government or the Japanese government or anything like that? It's such a weird thing, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's the constant contradiction of, you know, everything has to be tolerated and we all have to be about peace and love. But all the music I listen to, it doesn't matter how offensive it is, you know, like extremely degrading lyrics towards women. I mean, you can't go to I'm not hating on it. I'm just calling a spade a spade. You can't go to a Cannibal Corpse show and tell me that you're going to wave your rainbow flag and that you know, Cannibal Corpse is for you and about that life. No, they're not. They're not against you. But what they're singing about is, I mean, at its root, horribly misogynistic. It is just hateful. It's just hateful music.
And that's the
and the thing is, it doesn't matter if you agree or, you know, if no one, I hope, who goes to a Cannibal Corpse show listens to the lyrics and go, man, they're really speaking to me with that stuff. Yeah. Which is kind of always been my point. A lot of with metal, when you try to explain it to somebody on the, you know, in the outside world, I always say to them, like, you know, the average, like people at work, for example, they'll say, oh, can you even hear what they're saying? I said, well, with some bands, yes. With some bands, no. I don't really give a fuck. For me, it's about the feeling I get listening to the music.
Right. Yeah, and some of them are definitely saying lyrics where you're like, whoa, if I took every lyric to every metal song literal, that'd be kind of insane.
Yeah.
It's funny how they can listen to lyrics about burning churches and, like, mutilating people, stripped, raped, and strangled and shit like that. But then things in the real world that upset them are really quite confusing.
Yeah, they'll go to a show and sing along to Stripped, Raped, and Strangled, but oh my God, don't vote for Trump. Don't you dare.
Yeah.
Don't you dare put that MAGA cap on.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, they go to metal shows screaming along to Dying Fetus, like, kill your mom, fuck your dog, or whatever. But that if someone was wearing a Trump hat, they'd lose their fucking minds. I've thought that metal was so, billed as an offensive thing because it was fun back when it was coming around and everything. Like we were saying, the more offensive the band, the better, more interesting it was. Nowadays, if a band had a contest of like, wear your most offensive shirt to our show, the shirt that would offend everyone the most would say there are two genders. That's the one. Everyone could have the most satanic, fucked up, brutal, like corpse pictures. That's the shirt that would set everybody off and be an actual problem.
Oh yeah, no question. But dude, I just to change the topic for a second, I want to ask you this question because you brought up the Osbournes a couple of times now. Yeah. Have you watched that new documentary?
Not yet.
And I've wanted to talk to somebody about this who's seen it.
No,
look, I mean, like obviously there's no spoilers. We all know how the story ends. But I would love to know, and I hope you'll do a video about this when you've watched it. I would love to know what you think about how they handled the ending. Because like just to give my view, not to want to influence your view, up to the point that up to about 5 minutes before the end, it's one of the best music documentaries that I've ever seen. It's incredible. It's very, very sincere. It shows, it's an incredibly intimate portrayal of everything that's going on, and it's this unbelievable build up to the point where Ozzy is under the stage on his throne, about to come up. And then he literally comes up, and they cut straight to the funeral, and it's credits.
Oh, really?
It's fucking atrocious. Like my wife and I were both sitting here going, "What the fuck's going on here?" It's like, is this
That's strange.
Like how? Like it's almost to a point where I looked at it and I was like, "This is a fucking insult." It's like, surely you had people after you recorded footage after the show where people could talk about how they felt about the performance. Yeah. Ozzy could have shared his thoughts on the performance. Sharon could have shared her thoughts on the performance. Something. But it's like the whole thing is built around how he's trying desperately to get ready for the final, for the Back to the Beginning show, his final performance. Yeah. He gets there and then it's like, okay, we're done. It's like Mr. Kruger on Seinfeld when he goes, that's it for me, when he stands up and leaves. That's kind of the way the director was.
So, like, if you hadn't seen that last concert, you could almost get the impression that he died while he was getting up to the stage, like
virtually, yeah. I mean, they show the date line at the bottom, so they show it's 2 weeks later. Yeah. But it's so poor because the whole thing just feels incomplete.
Yeah, I feel like a very easy thing to do would have put the clip of him performing "Mama, I'm Coming Home" right there. I feel like that probably would have been perfect.
100%. And I was bracing myself because I was a little emotional watching this documentary. I'm not going to lie. I mean, there was a couple of parts where I really teared up, and I was bracing myself for the "Mama, I'm Coming Home" bit, and it's like nothing.
That's strange.
It's like you had everyone who was influenced by him there. The whole thing should have been presented as the culmination of, all of this sacrifice and struggle to finally get there. And it's like you could have spoken to Tom Araya, James Hetfield, everyone that was there. Like, this is what he meant to me, blah, blah, blah. And then you kind of cut to the funeral and you close things off on a somber note. But, it would feel more... It would definitely feel more triumphant because at least he kind of went out the way he would have wanted to go out, and these are all the people that were there to see him at his last show, or to be on stage with him on for his last show. It's really just a fucking complete disgrace, in my opinion.
That's strange, yeah. And like we've seen clips of after the show, Ozzy and Kelly were around the table talking about the performance and everything. They could have put that in there. I'll definitely have to watch it and see.
Dude, I'm curious to hear what you think of it. I was hoping you'd already seen it, but
yeah, I had to be in the right mindset for something so emotionally impactful.
Yeah, no, well, it happened to me on the weekend that we had to put one of our cats to sleep as well. So I was, I may rock, but I'm not made of stone, mate.
Yeah, sorry, man.
It was a rough watch because of that. But I just, it was made rougher. Like I was shaken out of my emotional coma because I was like, what the fuck's going on here? Like, where's the rest of the documentary?
Yeah. That's strange.
Yeah, it is very bizarre. But on the topic of movies, I wanted to ask you this question. On your Metal Archives page, you are listed as being an extra in movies like The Master, San
Yeah.
Andreas, Ant-Man, and also Ass Worship 3. No, well, actually, the last one I was lying about.
That one's supposed to be uncredited. I was wearing the Gimp mask in that. I didn't want my identity to get out.
But yeah,
But
so the Master with the great Paul Thomas Anderson.
yeah, that's a history about me some people might not even know about. I was in acting for a bit, mostly doing movie extra stuff. The Master by Paul Thomas Anderson was actually the first thing I was ever in. And it was this kind of crazy story of just to make it really quick. I saw some like ad in the Bay Area. What they would do is if they needed a bunch of extras for a movie, like a big movie scene at a park or whatever, you could just write your name on a slip, and if they liked you, they would take you. And I did that for a different movie and forgot about it. And then like a year later, I get a random phone call asking me to be an extra in The Master. And I thought it was a prank phone call and fake, but kept hearing the details and it lined up. But yeah, that led to me doing extra work for a couple of years. So in the film The Master, you can clearly see me a couple of times. There's mostly the scenes in the house when Joaquin Phoenix is kind of like jumping around and like a couple party scenes. I got to spend 2 weeks with Joaquin Phoenix and Paul Thomas Anderson. That was weird as fuck. Whenever Paul Thomas Anderson too, but I meant Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Oh,
Yeah.
Philip Seymour Hoffman, yeah.
Yeah, he was awesome. He was like a lot of fun. He would like be talking with everyone there, making it a good time. Joaquin Phoenix was like a cougar that they would only let on set when they needed it to kill something. Whenever he walked in the room, everyone was like, everyone be like on your toes.
Oh, really?
But that's the type of actor he is. This could be really intense. Like could do anything at any moment. Not in a dickhead way, but like they literally told us, don't speak to him, and if he speaks to you, address him as the character. That's the type of actor that Joaquin Phoenix.
I mean, you say that like you surely read about the stories about Leonardo DiCaprio and what's his name, Daniel Day-Lewis on the set of Gangs of New York. Like,
Yeah,
he
exactly.
said it was completely freaked out. He's like he was so intense. He
Yeah.
said they would sit at they'd sit at lunch and like. Daniel Day-Lewis is just sitting there glaring at him, like for the whole lunch.
In if you've seen The Master, there's a scene where Joaquin Phoenix spends pretty much all day walking back and forth between walls and touching them as an experiment. He literally did that all day for like 12 hours. We got there in the morning and they start filming it, and he's walking between the walls. We go to lunch, come back, he's still doing it. So in the movie, he kind of like breaks down, and that was the last time that I was actually on set. When they said cut, he like looked like he had a breakdown and left and went off camera. And then they excused like, all right, you guys are done. You can go home now. We have to walk by him, and he's nowhere near camera, and he's still in the mindset going at it. That was one of the most intense, crazy ones I got to be a part of. After that, it was a lot more either like a week or a weekend of popping up in the background in films and being like, what the fuck is he doing here? It was an interesting time for sure. I do feel like my time in the acting world did help me be better for my YouTube channel. Because I definitely went through starting off being nervous on camera, not knowing what to say, not really knowing how to wield an audience in any type of way. And I do feel like with acting classes, acting experiences it did help me at least open up and become more comfortable with these types of things. Like getting on stage with my band, it's always exciting, but I usually don't have that feeling like, oh my God, I don't know what the fuck's going on. It's usually a little more like, all right, like we're in the mode now. And I do feel like the acting kind of helped me prepare for that. I got out of acting because the industry is just so disgusting. But
did you have ambitions to do feature acting?
Yeah, for a little bit. When I first moved down here to LA, I did start taking classes for that and started doing auditions for it. That's kind of where I don't know how to just maybe I guess jadedness in terms of the industry, because I always loved, and I still love today, the art form of acting and performance and film and everything. But taking classes to learn how to do acting better, they start getting into, all right, now you have to know how to do social media as an actor and how to network and all of the industry stuff. And I was like, that sounds stupid. I don't want to do that. And I started getting to the point where teachers that I had were telling me that I was doing really good at acting, but I wasn't getting any opportunities. Nothing was happening. And then no word on how to get better from that. So part of it was I kind of reached a point where like, okay, you people are either telling me I'm good when I'm not and not telling me what I need to know to improve, or it's something else where like I am good, but that doesn't matter because it's all business shit, which I knew it was, but it wasn't so much like, oh, I deserve it. It was more so I don't like having to ask people if I can do something, if I can work or something. That was much more what bothered me, was not getting turned down, because everybody gets turned down, but the feeling of like, if you're an actor, you want to be an actor, you literally can't work unless someone gives you permission to. That's the whole audition process. And that whole time I was like, that's gross to me. That is not the only thing that led me out of acting. The entire industry, if you really dig into Epstein and stuff like that, you know. But another thing that kind of really jaded me, to be honest, with the acting world, was the Will Smith Oscar slap, which is such a stupid, kind of funny thing to mention now. But for me at the time when that happened, I was like, that's bullshit. He should be arrested on stage immediately. And then I see the entire industry applauding him, giving him a standing ovation. And I was like, these are the people that I'm supposed to be like inspired by and want to be like working with and everything. And they're applauding this clear bullshit thing that happened because of the image, because I know they're afraid of the image of, would it look bad if I didn't? Would it look good if I didn't? Very few celebrities actually called that out. And then the acting world largely took Will Smith's side. And a lot of people were saying comedians do need to be held accountable for what they were saying. And, we can't just allow comics to be going off saying whatever. And at the time, I was so embedded in the acting world, but I was like, I'm with the comedians. Fuck you guys. Like, I'm not doing a war on comedy. Like, that was absolute bullshit.
I always thought about that incident. I didn't even think that Chris Rock was particularly over the line. I mean, he was poking fun. It was done in quite an endearing way. There was nothing malicious about it.
Yeah.
And also, I should say, I thought that he handled the slap exceptionally well.
Oh God!
I mean, like he brushed it off and he just carried on. He was really, really good. Total pro.
Yeah, like that's probably not how I would have handled it, but in a bad way.
No.
Yeah. But it was just the combination of all these things, of seeing how the industry really operates in terms of like networking over actual skill and passion, and then just how bullshit the art came in terms of politics. Suddenly every single movie was starting to be dog shit, and I'm like, why am I auditioning for things I don't even like? I'm trying so hard to be an actor so I can be in these fucking awful movies. Like, that doesn't seem much reward at the end. And around that time, I started doing my YouTube channel just because I wanted to talk about things I actually wanted to talk about. I remember even when in the acting world, I felt a struggle at the time between how much of my honest opinion do I give on things and how much do I be careful in case you don't get a job for something. And I was always like, that feels disgusting. So I started YouTube to actually say what I wanted about topics, and YouTube started taking off. So as YouTube started doing well and I could talk about what I wanted when I wanted, I didn't have to ask someone, can I make a video on this, please? Like, I could just say what I wanted to. And then the acting world just got so much worse and worse. Like, LA is pretty much dead at this point in terms of the entertainment industry. It was kind of natural abandoning of the ship, I would say. I feel like I've always been good to notice when the ship I'm on starts sinking and it's time to get off. And it kind of felt like that. Like, maybe, I have no idea, if I was younger, if I got like big movie parts at the time, would I feel differently? But it was always the industry side of things just felt so gross and restrictive and fake to me. Like, even I was deep into acting, I was always a metalhead and was always into Motorhead and being a real fucking person and not going with what the industry says or whatever. So it was always a struggle I was facing at the time. It's an interesting life journey, I would say, because not many people can say they were in The Master or Ant-Man or all of these weird movies. But I'm definitely glad it happened, and it helped shape me to who I am now. But I'm definitely glad to not have an interest in it anymore. If a friend of mine was making a movie and asked me to be in it, then I'd be open to that. But I have no desire to want to do like the Hollywood thing or any of the stupid bullshit now.
The crazy thing about Hollywood as well is how their kind of mode of being right now is so self-defeating.
Yeah.
There's constantly questions about why does nobody come and watch movies at the cinema anymore? Why are box office receipts down? Why can't Hollywood why isn't Hollywood producing bona fide movie stars, the way that they did with Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, right, Jack Nicholson, Leonardo DiCaprio, Daniel Day-Lewis. It's very easy. Like if you listen to Adam Carolla talk about it, like he explained it once in his podcast, and I thought he articulated it beautifully. He was like, because it starts with a script. The script gets torn apart by Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan and every single corporate interest that's around the desk. They say, well, you have to have this person, you have to have that person, you have to have someone representing this, subsegment of society, and
right,
this person, you have to have he has to have a sidekick. Well, the sidekick probably has to be X, and then he says by the time that you get to the end of the script, it's completely different to what you wanted. It's totally anodized, corporatized, and then like you say now. A lot of it is around, or a lot of the people that are getting opportunities because of how well networked they are. I mean, there's no fucking way anybody can convince me that Timothée Chalamet got into Dune because he was a brilliant actor and perfect for the role. No chance.
Yeah, it's because he wears the right clothes at the galas and everything.
Yeah.
And not as an actor, but as a worker, because I worked for industry staffing company here in LA. So I got to work a couple of award shows. I worked the Oscars and these two other ones I can't remember. And at least for fans at home, you watch the award shows, you're like, oh, it's so glitz and glamour and amazing and everything. When you're there, even for me, just as a worker, not a celebrity, but I could just see it's all just shiny lights and plastic. That's really it. Like, the red carpet, it's so billed. Everyone loves seeing the celebrities. It is literally in a corner. It's not even at the front door. I've seen celebrities in a line for the red carpet. They stand there, get their picture taken, and then they go walk over to the party. Like, you think it's them, walking into the party and just being like, oh, hey, it's not. Like, they literally stand in line for their fucking picture there. It's so stupid. Yeah. And then so many of them, it's the same people at the award shows. Who are the people deciding to get the awards? Fucking old business people who gives a shit what their opinions are on movies. That's my mindset of it. So it was a really cool experience to get to work at the Oscars and some others. Like, that's obviously super rare, but it made me kind of like the whole thing even less and just kind of see it as being like, all right, cool lights. That's kind of all.
Well, I would say just I mean, it's obviously your perception or your interpretation of this is what really matters. But just if I put myself in your shoes, at the very least, you got to see Joaquin Phoenix, operate in his natural element, directed by one of the great directors of our time. There is no question about that. Paul Thomas Anderson, for reference, most people who watch the podcast know this. My favorite movie of all time, not by even a slight margin, the biggest of margins, There Will Be Blood.
Oh, no.
Nothing that has ever been produced is better than that movie, as far as I'm concerned. So maybe Ass Worship 3 tops it just a little bit. But,
with the remake, when he makes that with Daniel Day-Lewis, that would be a classic.
But no, that is the movie. So yeah, when I saw The Master, I was like, fucking, you got to work, you got to see PTA in action.
Yeah, he was really nice. It was cool to see him set everything up. That was literally my first acting thing, so I didn't have the seasoned eyes for it. I would have seen so much more technique if it happened later on. But I remember he was really cool. He was nice to me. I only had like a sentence conversation with him at one point. But I was thrown into this movie with no acting experience as an extra, and I was one of the higher tier ones. Like, because I did that film, I was eligible for the Screen Actors Guild. And some people work their whole lives and never get eligible for it. I was kind of like thrown into the eligibility. But all of a sudden I'm spending 2 weeks around Oscar winners watching them do what they do. It was so insane. I remember moments then being like, I can't tell what's real and what's not. At times where, Joaquin flip shit or something, it definitely blurred the line of what was real and what wasn't sometimes.
But dude, I sometimes find that even at shows, like I remember seeing Rammstein at the Milton Keynes Bowl a couple of years ago, and this is like the third time I'd seen them live, and I was relatively close to the stage, but you're watching it and you're like, like my mind is telling me this is actually happening in front of me right now, but it still feels just like a big movie.
Right. Yeah.
It's weird when that happens.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. That happened a lot of times on movie sets. That happened at the Oscars because I was not in the actual theater where it happened, but I was outside the door of it. So as soon as it ended, every single celebrity had to walk by me. And I was just like, after parties over there, cars over there, like whatever. But in the span of 10 minutes, I made eye contact with Steven Spielberg. Angela Bassett was really nice to me. I saw fucking everybody go by right then. It's that kind of what you were saying, that moment when it's happening, it feels like a movie you're just kind of watching happen, and then later you have to be like, that I was there. That was a real thing that happened. That's so weird.
Yeah. Question for you on your YouTube channel, because you were there was in 2024 there was a sharp uptick in like your subscriber numbers, because I remember at like end of 2023 you were on about 19,000 subscribers, which is already very good, especially considering the fact that you don't really play to the like you have your own style of music that you're into, which is tends to be, I think, a little bit, fair to say, at least correct me if I'm wrong, a little bit more extreme. You don't really talk about, like, you don't try and pick on what's hot right now to talk about. But what was the catalyst? Because it would have happened, I would assume, in 2024. Can you remember what the catalyst was that you suddenly started seeing the numbers go up?
Honestly, not really a main one. I mean, if I looked at it, maybe I could figure it out. There's a couple that stood out. The whole Metal Days drama did bring quite a bit of uptick to it, because I kind of exposed this whole bullshit festival that turned out a lot of people either knew about or had been affected by, but no one put the story together until I did. And then, like, I had people who worked for really big bands hitting me up being like, hey, like, we were ripped off by this guy too. So it could be that stands out. I think, like you mentioned before, was it 12 Worst Crimes?
12 Worst Crimes in Metal.
Yeah, that one took off huge. I think a lot of people really like countdowns of horrible things happening. That one, but it wouldn't have been 2024 because it was recent, but one of the main ones I can think of that was a huge uptick for me was honestly Ozzy and his last show and his passing, which I obviously didn't intend on any type of grifting off Ozzy for that month or whatever. But when the final show happened, I did want to talk about it. And then I did a live stream for the Back to the Beginning show where I only filmed me because it was copyright content. But my thought was we can watch it together at the same time while it's live and I have an audience. And I thought it would be smaller than what I usually get on my live streams doing. And it did incredible numbers, like way blew past any live stream I've done. And then, so all the Ozzy stuff did kind of boost it up a lot, I guess, because it was a more mainstream and big, important topic, obviously. But it's been some of the controversies. Now that you mentioned it, just came to me. Part of it might have been Blue Ridge Rock Festival, too. That sounds about the time, I think. Or maybe it was that 23. There's been a lot of festivals fall apart that I've mentioned.
Dude, there is one festival, and maybe one day we can talk about this, because whenever I find somebody who's into this sort of shit, I can talk about Woodstock 99 forever. I'm just completely obsessed with it. I've always been. I was 19 years old when it happened, so it was a real kind of it was kind of the end of my adolescence. But what happened there felt like the nail in the coffin of my adolescence. I just find the whole fucking fiasco just totally fascinating.
It's insane, isn't it? It's a weird
it's
story of
insane.
hospitality.
But but in my view, and I don't care, people will go, oh, all these terrible things happened while they were playing. But that Limp Bizkit set on the Saturday, one of the greatest live shows ever recorded. I'm not even a Limp Bizkit fan, but you cannot watch that and not go, holy fuck, that's incredible.
Oh yeah, totally. Just the crowd reaction and everything,
dude.
Even if it was a little dangerous at the time. I remember I was talking about that in the video, and talking about the horrible shit that happened. But then I was looking at the lineup, and I was like, James Brown, Kid Rock, Metallica, Limp Bizkit. Like, I would have went to this. This would have been fucking awesome.
Oh, you look at the lineup and you go, imagine if they had Biohazard, Slayer, if they really went to town on the metal bands. I mean, it would have gotten fucking raucous.
Yeah, there were way more violent bands at the time. It's crazy.
Oh yeah. I mean, it was a good time for humanity. That, I mean, I know none of the documentaries you see about it will say, oh, this was a great time. But I loved the late 90s. It was one of the best times on the face of the earth, as far as I was concerned.
Absolutely.
Now, what are your like? Have you got, because you're right now? I mean, you're kind of established as I would argue, probably like one of the preeminent metal channels. Maybe with the exception of Banger, but I mean, Banger is poser stuff. But you're like, what do you have any like longer term goals for the channel? Anything that you want to do?
I mean, like, sort of vaguely, just because I would like to do interviews with other people and see how that goes. But I don't really have anything in mind in terms of like upscaling to a bigger situation. I'm not going to get rid of my gym setup because it bothers so many people, I guess. But
dude, that's so fucking funny that's like a constant theme of conversation on every one of your comment threads.
Yeah, and I don't get it. Like I've mentioned before, if I was trying to be all macho with it, I would understand. I literally don't mention it at all, and then people get obsessed with it. But like, I really appreciate you saying that about my channel, because I really don't think of, I guess, the size my channel is right now. I keep making videos the way that I have before, and I'm aware, obviously, like the audience grows and it gets bigger, and that's so impressive to me and cool. But I don't know. Every time I'm at a festival and I do meet people and they say they love the channel, generally part of me is kind of blown away and be like, really? Like, whoa, I just feel like a dude, talking to my camera, and that's it. So I'm so grateful that so many people do like the channel, especially because, like you were saying, I try not to go for just whatever the trendy thing is everyone is talking about. If it happens to be a trending thing I want to talk about, then I will, but I usually am not like, what's trending? All right, I'm going to grab that. I usually I want to actually say something about it. Which is a lot of people, when I meet them, biggest compliment I get for the channel is that I am honest and I do give real opinions and everything, even if people don't agree with every single thing I say. I guess people can appreciate the authenticity of it, because I get hate comments from people that I don't like the mainstream stuff, and then I get hate comments from people that I don't like the most extreme, most underground stuff, and I'm like, I really don't give a shit. I like what I like, and we'll talk about it. I feel like that's how most metalheads should be. In terms of the channel growth, don't have much. Obviously, I want to keep doing it. I don't have any plan to not, but I don't really have any ideas of upscaling in terms of anything I'm not already doing. I would like to just be more consistent in general. I do think it's a big fault on my own that I could be maybe a little more proactive at getting videos up quicker and everything. Sometimes I am, sometimes I'm not. I feel like it's just human nature at times. But besides that, I'm more so just really grateful with how much the channel has grown and what it has become. I'm more kind of really trying to appreciate what it is right now rather than thinking of whatever else it could be. But I am open. We'll see what happens with everything. That's why, I started doing more festival guides focused on metal festival videos. And I did branch out into doing other things, because I can't just be going to metal festivals all the time, as much as I would like to. But I knew that, okay, I do want to talk about other things in metal too. And I do want to keep it all metal related. I don't want to throw up a video on the channel that has nothing to do with metal whatsoever. But I do like to kind of jump around, like, this is a political thing, but it does mention metal, so I'm going to talk about it. This is a worst of list or whatever. So kind of just expanding what I can, I guess what I want to talk about relating to metal, and just kind of, I guess holding myself to standard of continuing it, I guess you could say.
No, well, I know exactly what you mean, because when I started my podcast, the whole point was, at the time there was Justice's podcast. There was which I like, but I mean he wasn't really talking to a lot of people that I was interested in, and there was fucking boring ass Chuck and Godless on the Metal Sucks podcast, which was unlistenable. And I would listen to it, and I'd go, like, I'd listen to Joe Rogan as an example, and I'd go, man, it'd be so cool if there's if there's a metal podcast that's focused on long form conversation, the kind of thing that I would want to hear. I don't want pre-prepared questions. I want it to feel off the cuff. I want it to feel like a natural conversation, and that's how my podcast started. And then it just morphed from there. People, somebody said once, "Oh, you should do something where you talk about some of the latest metal news." And I started doing it, and then I realized, well, why don't I? Everyone does all these fucking stupid React videos, so let me just start listening to music and tell people what I think of new stuff coming out, and then you start throwing all of your personality quirks in there, and they, you know how it goes. Like, there's certain things just get amplified because people like it, and they respond well to it. But I mean, I've always, the standard that I hold myself to is, am I producing something that I would want to listen to myself?
Right.
And I think when you get away from that and you start thinking about, well, how can I cater to this audience, or how can I expand the audience? That's when you come unstuck. But what you do exceedingly well, and this is a genuinely sincere compliment, you have the ability to talk about controversial topics and not leave your half your audience completely and utterly enraged. You get a couple of haters, but you got a personality where I think people sense the sincerity, and they as a result they kind of go, well, even if I don't agree with them, I know he's coming from a good place. Which is actually a rare thing. It's like that whole, I talk about this in my day job to people who work for me quite a lot. I'm like, you must always remember, it's not what you said, it's how you made the person feel.
Yeah.
And you have a rare ability to manage that aspect of what you do extremely well.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. It's definitely doesn't always show when I get comments either calling me a Nazi or a woke card. Together in the same video is always fucking hilarious. That's my favorite. But that is like, people have told me that they don't always agree with what I say, but like you were saying, they either like where I was coming from or like how I present or whatever. And I always try to be fair in every way, even if I do have a bias on a situation. Like with the Dogma one, I am kind of throwing jokes out there about, what I thought of the music and everything, but at the same time, like, I am defending the musicians in it who were affected by it. And the same thing, I just did an interview with the guy who runs Lamb Goat, involving the whole like Ronnie Radke drama in him. I honestly didn't even want to do that interview, but it was important to me to come from a fair standpoint and be like, oh, yeah, well, it's only fair someone involved in the conversation wants to chime in, like, you should give them their room to speak. And that's really what I try to come from. Like, I don't want to push any side or agenda other than the factual one. Like, people can hate any band, any artist they want. That's fine. But I would really prefer if it was for actual real reasons and not made up stupid bullshit that just gets spread in media. Especially when it's lacking so much integrity from the metal media outlets. They will just run with stupid ass stories. Being a younger teenager getting into metal, thinking, they really spoke for the metal scene. And now a lot of them are practically unreadable unless it's just laugh at how bad the articles actually are.
I'm about to say, it's not just that they're unreadable. The thing that really fucking pisses me off is the obvious pay to play that takes place in those magazines, and you look at it and you think, this is so fucking pathetic.
Yeah.
Like I mean, your channel as an example does exponentially more views than, I would argue per month than buys of basically every single metal magazine on the face of the earth. certainly right now.
It's insane.
And so, when they still hold themselves in such high esteem, and they ask, you'll be at a festival, they'll ask, what do you do? And I host this podcast, and they sort of look down their nose at you. I always just smile. I'm like, dude, you guys aren't going to exist in five years time from now.
Oh yeah.
So we'll see who's looking down their nose then. One last question for you. Your band, Dark Insanity, I really, really liked the Rabbit Psychosis EP. When are you guys going to do some more stuff? When are you going to put out a full length?
We've been working on it. We've been talking about it. We do have a very exciting show that should be announced next week. It's not in terms of releasing music, but it'll be a big exciting thing. But yeah,
going on the road with Dogma. Yeah.
I am the new vocalist for Dogma, actually, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, revealing it here. But no, we've been talking about it. We have plenty of songs. Like when we play live, we have 7-8 songs in our set we do now, and others that are being worked on. We were supposed to do a single recently, like in the last month, and then the person we were going to record with had personal issues that they wanted to deal with. I'll admit I was a little bit annoyed with that because I want to get it out there. I've been eagerly being like, I really want to drop these songs on people. So we're at least going to do a single of what I think is our craziest song so far. And we're going to drop that when it's ready. I think we should be recording it in December, hopefully. We'll see about that. And then after that, we'll focus on getting a full-length album out for sure. Like I said, with the channel wanting to hold myself accountable just to keeping doing it, I feel like the band's kind of the same way. You're juggling stuff. And sometimes things aren't just slipping. You need to catch yourself a little more. But I don't know if we have anything coming up for the rest of this year. But hoping in January or February we'll be able to drop a single.
Awesome. Well, my man, like I said to you before we started recording, Katie had suggested this to me back when you guys were on the mean streets of Iceland.
Oh, yeah,
she was not wrong. I was really, really, really happy we got to do this, and hopefully we talk again at some point down the road.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, man. Thank you for having me on here.
My pleasure, man. Take care of yourself.
Yeah, you too. Thank you.
just heard Rabbit Psychosis by Dark Insanity, featuring this week's guest, Wyatt Turner, ripping it up on the vocals. Make sure you check out that EP. It's also called Rabbit Psychosis. The Bandcamp link for Dark Insanity I will post in the description to the podcast. And if you head over there and you buy yourself anything, you let Wyatt and the gang know that it was old Jackson at Into the Necrosphere who sent you. Also, make sure that you head over to Wyatt's Metal. Make sure you're a subscriber, and a massive thank you to him for his time. What a blast talking to him. He will definitely be back on the podcast, and I hope you guys enjoyed that episode as much as I did recording it. Right now, my friends, if you don't like Predator 2, you ain't no friend of mine, which is your cue to hit the bricks, because this is my weekly news rant.
A roundabout for judgment. And hang them where the world can see.
All right, Legion, we kick off on metalstorm.net as always, and we are going to take a nosedive straight into the deep end of the septic tank, because first up, we've got Megadeth releasing their new single and video. Now, I know that most of you have already checked this out. If for no other reason than you let curiosity get the better of you, it says here, following the enthusiastically received Tipping Point, a new single and video entitled I Don't Care has been released by metal legends Megadeth. It comes from the band's self-titled final album due out on January the 23rd, 2026. The video, directed by the great Keith J. Lehman, can be watched below. I will withhold any further commentary until after you've had yourself a little 2-minute taste of what this masterpiece sounds like. You get the picture. Now, if you were listening to this on the audio version of the podcast, you would have missed out on the brilliance of the opening sequence of this music video, where Dave Mustaine is seen to be slow striding out of a tunnel in some urban neighborhood, the likes of which he probably hasn't set foot in for at least the last 3 decades. He's flanked by a gang of marauding skateboarding youths, and it kind of reminds me straight away of the of that Steve Buscemi meme. What is it? Hello, fellow kids, or something like that. Anyway, then we dive straight into it. Some of the finest lyrics I think that Mustaine has ever written. I don't care if I'm out of line. I don't care because this life is mine. I don't care you don't like what I say. I don't care and I won't obey. That kind of ties in quite nicely to the sneaky little middle finger he flashes right before the main riff starts. I think actually, in fairness, the chorus is potentially even more poignant. He was a hater and a thief, a maggot in dead meat, a traitor and a creep, a jackoff and a sheep. Now, here's 3 things that I'm going to say about this song. Number 1, And I would love to hear anybody mount a counter argument to this. But if Megadeth were a band of young bloods, if they were in their early 20s and this was their first song that they had written, and they went to market, they reached out to labels and they said, hey, we're Megadeth. We're a bunch of cool cats named Megadeth. Check out our new single. Does anybody think that a major label would pay even the slightest hint of attention to this? Because I don't. You might get some obscure label in Germany signing them. And yes, I know that signing a band like Megadeth isn't just all about one single, but yeah, I think you guys know what I'm driving at here. This is not this. I mean, if you compare this to something like Fugitive, there's no fucking comparison. Compare this to the New Testament. I mean, the New Testament at least sounds like the guys give a shit. This just sounds like, I mean, frankly, I don't know whether Dave Mustaine is just trolling us at this point or not. Because, I mean, first of all, we know that he does care. You mentioned that he got booted out of Metallica. I'll show you a man who cares really goddamn quickly. But anyway, I mean, the lyrics are terrible. The main riff is fucking absolutely appalling. Particularly when you think about what the guy is capable of technically. I mean, Mustaine isn't a bad guitarist. And, unsurprisingly, the guitar solo is probably the only thing about the song that's in any way acceptable. But even there, I mean, I don't give a shit. I've heard people talk about this song and compare it to things like, or tracks like High Speed Dirt and Sweating Bullets. Neither of those were great either, let's be honest. But they were fucking masterpieces, overtures in comparison to this total fucking drivel that we've just heard now. I know that Mustaine wants to make a very big deal of the Megadeth final hurrah. He has spoken about the fact that they could be touring for the next 3 to 5 years. I'm assuming in anticipation of Metallica doing their retirement shows, although I'm not so sure based on things I've read recently whether we're going to see that within the next 5 years. But anyway, he clearly wants there to be a sense of occasion around this. In order to make that happen, I mean, you must take the music or what you're doing seriously, and it doesn't feel to me like he's taking it seriously. It feels like old Mustaine needs to be given the advice to do better. This is fucking, yeah. I mean, even by Megadeth standards, I think this is probably, if you had to do like a ranking of the worst Megadeth songs ever recorded, ever released, this would be in the the worst 10%. It says here, Dave Mustaine shares some insight into the new track. How many times have you wanted to say this to someone? I know you want to. Deep down inside, if we had the balls, we would tell more people. I don't care more often. I mean, I know the dude is in his, late 60s now? Maybe midlife crises extend to your 70s. Maybe 65 is the new midlife. I don't know. Anyway, massive, unequivocal thumbs down from me. That is just total fucking horse poo. Moving swiftly along to 1914, who share a brand new track featuring the exited from My Dying Bride, Aaron Stainthorpe. It says here, I was about to say My Dying Bride have just released a new animated video. No, they haven't. 1914 have done so. The song is called 1918 Part 3, A Duty to Escape. Features a guest performance by Aaron Stainthorpe, ex My Dying Bride, or is he? We'll talk about that straight after this track, actually. The song serves as the last taste before their new record, Viribus Unitus, comes out tomorrow. Tomorrow being this past Friday. I'm recording this on a Monday evening. The album's been out for a little while now, 3 days. I've heard it. It is fucking excellent. Let me give you guys a taste of what this track sounds like. All right, I'll stop it there. I mean, let me just say right off the bat, that might be one of the best songs that 1914 have ever put out. I know that when I first listened to the initial single that they released off this new record, I said it reminded me a bit of Eschatology of War, which is an album I really enjoy. But as much as I like the single and as much as I think that that record is fantastic, I actually think that it's not doing Veribus Unitas it's not doing it justice, because this genuinely is probably the greatest thing that 1914 have put out in their careers to date. And it might potentially go on to kind of be their definitive record. It is an album where every man, and I think it's really exemplified on the track. So, I don't want this to turn into a de facto review of the album, but it is kind of going to do that. But every man in the band is playing at the absolute peak of their capability. Like, every performance is on point. Guitars, drums, the vocals are sensational. It is wrapped up in a stunning production. And then you've got Aaron Stainthorpe on this song, just adding that final haunting note. And I think it really adds to the narrative flow of this album, which even there, I would say, is something that 1914 have nailed far more effectively than they've ever done on any of their other records. There's always been a flow to their albums, and that's kind of always been what has made them so fascinating and so enjoyable to listen to, at least one of the elements for me. But I think on this album, there's a refinement to the way they've done it that is just, it's absolutely astonishing. So massive kudos to 1914 for what they've pulled off, not just with the song, but with the record generally. But we're listening to the song. It is the News Rant. I got to give them a rating, and I think they earned themselves a top notch. No question about it. I think also this album is a very, very strong contender for my top 30 of 2025. For some reason, I was not hugely excited about the record when it was first announced, and I don't know why, because I've liked everything that they've put out so far. But I think the reason I wasn't raving about it on the show was just for whatever reason, I just wasn't as hyped about it. And then longtime Legion member Cam Shave dropped me a line, and he said, "You need to check this album out. It's incredible," and he was not wrong. Not wrong at all, my friends. So if you haven't heard it yet, make sure you check it out. I'd be very surprised if it doesn't feature on many Legionnaires' top albums of the last year. And again, I'm blown away by it. Absolutely blown away by it. I also love the fact that Aaron Stainthorpe is now really, since leaving My Dying Bride, is getting involved in so many different things. He just seems to me, at least, to be having the time of his life. Musically, creatively, he seems in just a much, much better place than when I go back to episode, I think it was 72 that I had him on the podcast for the first time. I go back to the man I met there. I mean, he wasn't miserable or anything like that. He was coming off the back of his daughter's illness. But he definitely seems to me right now to be, a genuinely, energized man. Now, he may be energized, but he's also not beyond taking the old urine, and I'll show you what I mean in a second. So I'm sharing this off of Facebook. On the 10th of November, he posted a photo of himself having a catch-up with founder members of My Dying Bride, Calvin Robertshaw, Rick Meir, and original violin/keyboard player Martin Powell. Now, very much a fucking poking the bear action, if you ask me. I think he actually went one step further and potentially made it even worse. And I just want to find the screen grab here so that I can show you guys. If the My Dying Bride guys were paying attention, they may have noticed this. So somebody commented on that post that sadly it seems we will never get another Aaron-led My Dying Bride. And Aaron replied, or ... And that's kind of all that he needed to do. I mean, I don't know. I'm certainly not... I don't have a friendship or a relationship with him whereby I can just, hit him up and say, hey, when is My Dying Bride AD going to be launching? But, based on this, you wouldn't be surprised if that were to happen. So we'll see. Maybe 2026 is going to be an interesting year in terms of My Dying Bride. It feels like we've definitely not heard the end of this. I would just ask if I could make a public request, an open letter, an open request of Aaron. Just don't call yourself My Dying Bride, AD, and don't waste precious time involved in lawsuits about the name and stuff like that. I mean, I understand the business angle to it. And sorry, bear with me 1 second while I let the dog in. It's her birthday today, so I do need to be accommodating. Like I mentioned when I was talking to Wyatt, unfortunately 2 weeks ago, we had to put one of our cats down, and she's now 14 years old, the dog. So as I've suggested many times before on the podcast when I've spoken about her, you do kind of you start to get to a point where she's not sick or anything like that, thank goodness, but you start to treat every day like it's a gift because you don't know when things are going to turn. But anyway, getting back to Aaron Stainthorpe, don't waste your time with fucking stupid court cases about the name. Come out, call yourselves Gods of the Sun, or call yourself the Forever People, and just do something that's fucking totally badass and that takes a complete steamy poo over anything that My Dying Bride could do without you. That would be my request. Okay, moving on to some more music, my friends. Now, I did see earlier on there may potentially be a new Abysmal Grief that has been released. Yes, it says here, Italian Gothic doom metal veterans Abysmal Grief have unveiled details and a first single in connection with their new album announcement entitled Tetra Philosophia. It will be set free through Avant-Garde Music on December the 25th, 2025. Let's hear what the single sounds like. I mean, I dig the occult vibe that the song has got, and I'm vaguely familiar with Abysmal Grief. I thought their first two records, Abysmal Grief, that came out in 2007, and Misfortune, that came out 2 years later, I thought they were both pretty decent. I haven't really stayed up to date with them since, but yeah, I dig it. I mean, it's not the most brutal thing ever, but that's not the intention. And I'll tell you something right now, when it comes to a lot of the kind of pre-packaged occult metal bands or goth occult bands that are doing the rounds, I'm looking at shit like fucking, I mean, frankly, I'd throw Ghost in that heap. I would take this band over those bands any day of the goddamn week. So yeah, thumbs up for me. I think it's pretty entertaining. If you got nothing to do on the Lord's Day, or the Lord's birthday, I should say, then you might want to check out that new Abysmal Grief record. All right, let's move on to another song. We've got Martröð Now, I am going to apologize in advance to everybody from Iceland because it is extremely likely that I have mispronounced the name. But let's just go with Martröð. It says here, black metalers Martröð are streaming a new single, Skopunen. The song appears on the band's upcoming debut album, Drausenir Eldsons, which will hit the streets on December the 12th through Deborah Morty Productions. Deborah Morty Productions clearly intending to finish the year on a high. Let's hear what this sounds like. That is some fucking serious music. There are also some, or unsurprisingly, there's some serious talent in this band as well. So it's a two-man project. We've got Alex Poole, he of Chaos Moon fame. He's also in Krieg and a bunch of other bands, Lunar Sorcery, Icors, Glaive, and a bunch of other bands. Chaos Moon, by the way, put out a record in 2017 called Eschaton Memoir, which is fucking brilliant. It was one of my favorite albums of 2017. If you haven't listened to it yet, do yourself a favor and check it out as soon as possible. It's fucking outstanding. This also sounds outstanding. Just to say, the other half of this band is Hofstein Lyngdal. And he is with Wormlust. He's the or basically plays all instruments on Wormlust. And Wormlust, of course, a band that or a project that has had a bit of love from various folk who've been on into the Necrosphere. I've mentioned them a couple of times as well. Very, very cool band, very cool project, I should say. So yeah, you got two seriously tier one players and songwriters doing this. Unsurprisingly, it is fucking excellent. I feel like what I heard there, you've got a nice blend of atmospheric, dissonance, aggression, progression. Yeah, it's kind of what you would expect from Deborah Morty, who are a label that, I mean, they hit way more often than they miss. That gets another top notch for me, I think, without a shadow of a doubt. Of course, given that it's going to be released in December, it would not get a look in on the Decibel Top 40 of 2025. Speaking of which, let's have a gander at that. Now, before we get started, let's have some fun with numbers. I'm just going to share some statistics with you guys. When this list came out, I did a bit of analysis on AI using the power of Grok, and I asked it to do an analysis of albums released in by month across 2020 to 2025 of the Decibel Top 40 albums of the year. And here's the interesting nugget that emerged from that analysis. Now, there is a margin for error here, by the way. So, I mean, I don't concede that every single thing that AI spits out is 100% accurate. So it might be wrong. I don't think it's going to be wrong by much if it is. But across 240 total entries in the Decibel Top 40 albums of the year from 2020 to 2025 inclusive, there have been 0 releases included that were put out in December. Only 6 for November. And then in October, you've got 25. September, you've got 30. April, you've got 31. So March, April, September, and October are the most over-prescribed. Actually add May to that as well. And that does kind of make sense because that's when the majority of records do get released. But I mean, there's no one that's going to be able to convince me that there wasn't a single record that came out in December between 2020 and 2025 that didn't merit inclusion on that list. I mean, I know, and let me just double check this so that I can make sure that I'm not misremembering this, but I could swear that Melano, in my view, best Ecclesiastes album ever. And it is very, very close because House of the Black Geminus is also masterful. But yeah, Melano, that came out December the 14th, 2020. Don't believe that was on the list. So that's one. I know for sure there was at least one Funeral Mist album that came out around December the 5th. That's not there either. So, I'm not going to brand them disgraceful posers and a waste of time. I know I poke fun an awful lot, but frankly, there's an awful lot in the world to get, more worked up over than the accuracy and the trueness of the Decibel Top 40 of 2025. But you make of those statistics what you will. I mean, a cynic, I'm not saying that I'm a cynic. A cynic might read those statistics as there's always a rush towards the end of the year to get these lists out so that they can earn their $300 in fucking clicks. And that's why you're going to see, or that's why they always release it significantly before the year is up, and why there's just a bunch of stuff that you generally speaking aren't going to find on the list ever. Now, again, I don't think it really matters to a band like Ecclesiastes, or frankly, I don't think it matters to Alex Poole and his homie in Martröð either, which is fine. But let's have a look at the Decibel Top 40 and see if there's anything that, any overlap between what you might see on the definitive best of list of the year, which you will get to hear the first installment of in the 3rd week of January, because that's when I'm back from vacation. But we'll see if there's any crossover, also see if maybe there's a few things that I might have missed. So at number 40, we've got Sodom with The Arsonist. I personally felt that was a reasonably mediocre album. I also felt the same about Ossuary at number 39 with Abhorrent Worship. Neradolk is at number 38. Don't think I paid any attention to that. At number 37, Dead Heat, Process of Elimination. Only briefly listened to that. Didn't think it was all that great. At number 36, we've got Biohazard, Divided We Fall. Like the album. I certainly think it's a lot better than the previous one that they put out. As a matter of fact, I would argue it's better than really anything that they put out post 2000. Is it good enough to make my top 30? No. Sanguisugabog, Hideous Aftermath. This one I really enjoyed, really caught me by surprise. So yeah, that gets a thumbs up from me. In the Company of Serpents, A Crack in Everything. Not one I listened to. I need to add that to my list. At number 33, Morbicon, Lost Within Astral Crypts. Ditto, didn't listen to it. Number 32, Major Red Flag, basically poser confirmation, if you ask me. Agriculture, The Spiritual Sound. A fucking dreadful band who really should be abolished from all lists going forward. But anyway, Woad, Uncrossing the Keys. Everything I heard of this did not impress me. Number 30, we've got Havu Krunu with Tavastland. I know a lot of people really, really like this record. And I liked it as well. I know I listened to a single on the News Rant, which I was really impressed with. But I've gone back to the album a couple of times now, and I just can't really sink my teeth into it. It doesn't do an awful lot for me. Shearling, Motherfucker, I Am Both, Amen and Hallelujah at number 29. Number 28, Testament, Parabellum. Another good album. It's not Dark Roots of the Earth, though. Definitely not. I would actually say the previous album was slightly better, in my opinion, as well. But then again, it might just be one that's going to grow on me. Number 27, Hooded Menace, Lachrymose Monuments of Obscuration. I like that record as well. Number 26, Night, Cult of the Serpent Sun. Another one that I enjoyed. At number 25, Bluthaus Nord, Ethereal Horizons. Fucking excellent record. I have now heard the whole thing. Don't be surprised if you see it on my list as well. At number 24, Terror Corpse, Ash Eclipses Flesh. At number 23, Coroner, Dissonance Theory. I was slightly disappointed by that album. It's not bad, just didn't quite blow me away like I thought it would. At number 22, we've got 16 Guides for the Misguided, I should say, sorry. Number 21, Species, Changelings. Number 20, Black Braid 3. I do like that album very much. I'll also just say, by the way, once again, for the record, I had a couple of people ask me why I had John on for a second time. I like him. That's why I had him on for a second time. I think he's a good dude. I think anybody that actually listened to the last interview that he and I did, I think probably saw exactly what I meant when I said that he's a good dude. And frankly, I think that Black Braid 3 is a good album. I thought that the first one was good. I thought the second one was a little bit of a step down. Not necessarily in terms of quality. I just felt like it wasn't exciting me quite as much as maybe it should have. But I think this third one, if it's a record where give it time, give it a proper listen, give it your proper attention, and I think you'd be surprised. At number 19, Castle Rat, The Bestiary. I've heard one or two Castle Rat songs, and it's not been bad, but Castle Rat for me is kind of like all of these fucking Dogmas and all these other bands that they seem to sort of come on the scene with an agenda, and it's just an agenda that I'm not in it. I mean, the agenda puts me off, honestly, and secondly, it's just not music I'm interested in. Haggis, Destination, Extinction, that's at number 18. Volan at number 17. Popul Vu. I haven't heard that, and the fucking name is terrible. The album name is dreadful. At number 16, Decrepacy, Deific Morning, not heard that. Number 15, Eternal Darkness, wasn't very impressed with that. Number 14, Titan Blood from the Visceral Abyss, that is fucking magnificent, definitely on my list too. At number 13, Imperial Triumphant, Gold Star. I think that Imperial Triumphant, at least for me, I know I'm not, this isn't a uniform opinion or universally held opinion, but I personally think that they are the most overrated band possibly on the face of the earth. At number 12, One of Nine, Dawn of the Iron Shadow. Everything I've heard of that so far I really like. At number 11, Tribunal, Impenitence and Ruin. That's good stuff. At number 10, Lamp of Murmur, The Dreaming Prince in Ecstasy. Now, I actually went back and listened to this album because I saw it on this list. And I got to say, it's pretty goddamn good. The first half of the record, I think, is massively outshone by the second half. But that is a good one. Will it make it to my list? Not sure yet, but I do like it very much, and I like Lamp of Murmur generally. One band that I can guarantee you will not see on my list: Deaf Heaven at number 9, Lonely People with Power, complete and utter fucking bullshit. At number 8, Tower, Let There Be Dark. At number 7, Cryptopsy and Insatiable Violence. Fucking great record. Again, I'm not sure I'd put it all the way up to number 7, but we'll see. We'll see what happens when my list comes out. At number 6, we've got Evoken with Mendacium. I'm still working my way through that album. Wake is at number 5 with The Return of Magic. At number 4, Ancient Death, Ego Dissolution, an album that I liked, but I wasn't blown away by. At number 3, we've got Paradise Lost with Ascension. Brilliant album. That is definitely on my list, unsurprisingly. Number 2, we've got Mesa with The Spin. Again, because it was on the list, I went back and I listened to it. But it's original, but not really in my wheelhouse. Not the sort of thing that I enjoy. And then Dead Guy is their top album of the year, Near Death Travel Services. Dead Guy is a band I like, but I feel like their style of music has been perfected by Ken Mode, who I know they have heavily influenced. And I listened to Near Death Travel Services when it came out because, I was excited to hear what it sounded like. But it just, if nothing else, it just kind of gave me the hankering to go back and check out a bit more Ken Mode. So there you go. Not the worst list, I don't think. Couple of questionable inclusions, but again, I'm sure people will say that about my list as well. Either way, the most important takeaway from this whole experience is on the third weekend of January, like I said, you will get to hear the first installment of my 3-part extravaganza celebrating the best albums of 2025. With me for the first installment, as always, is going to be my good friend Nathan Glover from Gravier, a guy who has exceptional taste in music. He'll bring a load of interesting suggestions to the table, or selections to the table, I should say. Part 2 will be the Reverend Carl Hikara, and part 3, as always, will be myself and Mike Hill. So looking forward to seeing what that list turns out like, the definitive list. One band who's certainly on the contenders list for the top 30 is Enthroned. Their new single is entitled Asian Advocacy. And it is the third single of their forthcoming studio album, Ash Spawn, which is out now and available for listening via the YouTube below. The full album comes out on December the 5th. I've heard the whole thing. I think it's superb. Let's hear what the single sounds like.
My lords, the judges will show mercy. These crimes are not my crimes. We both know why I have been brought to trial, and we both know why I have been punished. Come on! Wait! I'm prepared for what I shall be. But do you recognize which has been and your wish might be fulfilled? I will tell you. Your walk is sold to eternal damnation. May God have mercy on you.
I am the judge, I am the sin. The criminal of truth. Cast in flame. Accused and accused, we want and destroy.
If you caught my conversation with Nornagast from Enthroned last week, he seemed to register genuine surprise that I thought that the new album seemed to be, or I described the new album as a natural continuation of Cold Black Suns, their 2019 record. But I've got to say, just reflecting on it as I was listening to that single, I mean, I hold by my contention, especially now that I've heard the whole thing. Yes, it's not quite as experimental as Cold Black Suns, but it certainly isn't like, moving away from that completely and doing a repeat of Armored Bestial Hell or Towards the Skull Throne of Satan. I would also probably say, if those are the types of albums that you prefer to hear from Enthroned, or I should say maybe demand to hear from Enthroned, Ash Spawn is not going to be your thing. I mean, it's an aggressive record. It's more aggressive overall than Cold Black Suns. Maybe has in that regard some more in common with Sovereigns that they put out back in 2014, but it's definitely not. I mean, as you could hear from that single, there's still a lot of experimentation there, and I'm very much on board for it. I think that what Enthroned have done over the course of their the last 5 years, these two albums, is they have very cleverly worked within the design, within the construct that is Enthroned's music. They don't sound like a different band, but they've really kind of stretched themselves as songwriters and as performers, I think. The record overall is very, very good. It's tough giving you an idea of what a song like this sounds like, because it is something that builds and builds, and it kind of does go into a lot of different shapes and machinations. But yeah, you're just going to have to take my word for it. When the album comes out, make sure you check it out. The song gets a thumbs up from me. The album probably closer to a top notch. As a end-to-end listen, I think it is absolutely fucking badass. I'll tell you what's not badass, and it's the subject of this week's Swirly. I'll tell you what's not badass, and it's the subject of my Swirly of the week. So, friends, against my better judgment, I went to watch Predator Badlands this weekend. Now, you could make the argument that potentially renders me eligible for the Swirly. But in my defense, I as much as I had said beforehand that I wasn't going to go and see it, the reviews from the bog standard mainstream critics were very positive, and a friend of mine asked me to join him. So I thought, what the hell? I'll give it a try. I'll risk my 1 hour 47 minutes. And man, am I sorry that I ever agreed to it. What a fucking disaster. If you thought that Shane Black's The Predator was an embarrassment to the franchise, I'm telling you something right now. I mean, it is the There Will Be Blood of comedy, sci-fi, horror when compared to this complete shambles. Now, I am, as many of you probably know, a huge fan of Predator. I love Predator 2. I think it's an unloved classic, in my opinion. I actually have increasingly developed a soft spot for Robert Rodriguez's Predators, partly because I think it's the last great Predator movie we're ever going to see. I thought that Alien versus Predator, both movies were a complete load of tosh. I did not enjoy Shane Black's The Predator. I thought Prey was marginally better. It still wasn't where it should be. No Alan Silvestri score, none of the great things that make a Predator movie, but at least it took itself seriously. And oh my God, then you have Predator Badlands, completely and utterly Disneyfied. And here's how bad it actually gets. So, firstly, the Predator is the good guy in this movie. So that entirely betrays the premise of the franchise. He is a emotionally conflicted young Predator who is on the receiving end of toxic masculinity at the start of the film. Meets up with absurdly, a pathologically annoying sidekick played by Elle Fanning about 20 minutes into the movie. She spends, incidentally, the vast majority of the film just spouting off one-liners, and the worst of all one-liners. I mean, stuff that makes fucking Jar Jar Binks sound like it's highbrow. It sounds like Dave Chappelle. So he meets up with her, and he also meets up with a cutesy, cuddly little creature that you can see is ready-made for the inevitable line of toys and other merchandise that is going to follow the release of this movie. As the film progresses, he has to learn to make peace with his emotions, and he learns to, and I shit you not, he learns to show love. So, I mean, basically, Dan Trachtenberg as well as his writer Patrick Asen or his co-writers, I should say, Patrick Asen and Jim Thomas, have turned Predator into a full-bore Disney movie. There's a couple of set pieces that are marginally watchable, and like once you get over the horror of the idea that the Predator can talk, the main character is actually somewhat likable at times. But oh my god, if you watch this movie and then you immediately go back and watch either Predator or Predator 2, the shock is it's jarring. So I have absolutely no choice this week but to line Dan Trachtenberg, Patrick Asen, Jim Thomas. Frankly, Elle Fanning should be there as well. And every single critic that gave this anything more than a 1.1 out of 10, to line them up, give them a turbo wedgie, grab them by the back of the neck, and stick their heads down the toilet. And that, my friends, is the Swirly of the week. All right. Let's move on to something a little more positive. Abnormal unleash a brand new track entitled Acid Disease. Says here, Italian extreme metal ensemble Abnormal present the second advanced single Acid Disease as part of their forthcoming long player, Italia's Gore Talent. It's due out on December the 5th. Let's hear what it sounds like. God damn. Talk about throwing everything barring the kitchen sink at a song. I mean, you've got corrosion of conformity style, kind of hard rock metal, verging on stoner doom vibes going on at the start of the song. You've got a bit of death metal. You've got something that actually doesn't sound too dissimilar from Call of the Void, which you guys know I fucking love me some Call of the Void, so I'm not hating that. But it all does sound very, very fucking schizophrenic. And I don't know whether all those elements mesh together pretty well. The interesting thing about it is I actually think they do all those elements quite well. Like that opening clean singing part sounds fucking cool. The corrosion of conformity bit, I can get on board with that. If the whole song was, in that vein, I don't think it would have been a bad thing. We get to the heavy part, and we've got, like I said, a bit of death metal, a bit of Call of the Void style power violence. Both of those they pull off really well too. But I just don't know whether the two hang together, or the three elements hang together in the sort of synchronicity that I don't know, maybe Abnormal would have liked. I'm not familiar with their back catalog, so I don't know whether the rest of it sounds like this, but if it does, I'm actually now I'm really curious to check out what the rest of their music sounds like. I might even give Italia's Gore Talent a listen. If nothing else, you have to hand it to them. They are they're trying to do something that's original. Now, speaking of doing things that are original, Snorre Ruch and Runa from the band Slagmar. Snorre Ruch, of course, of Thorns and what's his name? Slagmar is a very cool black metal band out of Norway. Most of you guys should all know that. Runa's stage name is General Kribsfeiser, or Kribs? Yeah, Kribsfeiser. Sorry, I can't pronounce all these fucking weirdo ass names. Anyway, they had the metal world in a bit of panic, and frankly, I'll include myself in this because they basically posted or there were posts doing the rounds last week suggesting that they had gotten lost. Now, I'm friends with Runa on Facebook, and so I had seen on Tuesday he posted a picture of himself and Snorre. They were going to go hiking, and then obviously, this news starts coming out on Thursday, and genuinely, people started to panic. And like I said, including myself. So to let you in on a little backstage news, Snorre was originally meant to be my episode 300. That has since changed because I'd always been a little concerned about him postponing. He has postponed. We're going to do something next year. It's nothing bad. He's just got something else going on at the moment. But we're going to do something early next year. And of course, Frost is going to be my episode 300 now. But yeah, he was going to be my episode 300. We were actually due to record this morning, Monday morning. And so I dropped the dude a note to go, is everything okay? And he messaged back straight away. And at that point, I knew the jig was up. Seems they had us all fooled. Now, a couple of folks were pretty pissed off about it, and I can understand why. Like they say on this Metal Insider article that I'm looking at the moment, 2025 has been a disastrous year for black metal. It's been a disastrous year for metal generally. Like a lot of everybody's heroes have passed away. I think the last thing they wanted was for Snorre and Runa to die in such tragic circumstances. But apparently it was all part of a plan to make you part of Hulder's Ritual. And apparently Hulder's Ritual is the name of the forthcoming Slagmar album. So, yeah, there you go. We were all duped. I mean, if nothing else, I do hope that those two guys at least take something positive away from the fact that an awful lot of people were very, very concerned about their well-being. And that's something that's not easy to come by in this day and age. So the fact that people gave enough of a fuck, you should definitely feel good about yourself after something like that. Either way, I will have Snorre on at some point in 2026, and I'll see if I can get Runa on as well. They did the Thorns listening session at Beyond the Gates, and they also did one for Slagmar. I wasn't there for the Slagmar one, but of course, I've shared some of the footage of the Thorns listening session with all of you. So, you know that is going to be a fucking killer album. I mean, if it comes out in 2026, which, given Snorre's adherence to timelines, that's anybody's guess whether that's actually going to happen. But if it comes out in 2026, that is an immediate contender for one of the year's very best. And speaking of something that's going to be coming out in 2026, Power Trip are working on new music. It says here, nearly 2 years since ending their hiatus following the death of original vocalist Riley Gale, Power Trip guitarist Blake Ibanez confirmed in a recent interview with Altars of Metal that the band will potentially record and release new music in 2026. I've said this before, going to say it again. I strongly, strongly support them doing so. I know that there was a bit of an uproar when they got together with Seth from Fugitive and did those Power Trip shows. But like I said, with the greatest of respect to Riley's family, it wasn't just Riley that was in Power Trip or that made Power Trip successful. It was the work of everybody in the band, and they deserve, or they have the right to go out and perform the songs that they wrote. I also happen to think, based on my very limited knowledge of Riley, or, I never got to meet him, unfortunately. I did get to see him live, watched a lot of interviews with him, but I'd be very, very surprised if he didn't feel like his bandmates were doing the legacy of Power Trip, and by extension of his name, that they weren't doing that justice. So that's all I'm going to say on that. Okay, we're going to wrap up with a cover song as we're on the topic of tragedies of 2025. Of course, we lost Ace Frehley, and so unsurprisingly, Catatonia are the first of several bands, at least that I've seen, to present a cover of a Kiss song. This time they are covering A World Without Heroes. They seem to claim in this article that apparently this cover was part of their full-length effort, Nightmares as Extensions of the Waking State, that came out this year, but I don't recall that song being included there. Probably recorded as a B-side. Either way, apparently they're unveiling this rendition originally of the song was originally released in 1981 by Kiss. Yeah, let's hear whether they've done it justice. Love it. I would go as far as to say that's probably the best I've heard Catatonia sound for at least 2 decades. I'm a big fan of the first 2 Catatonia albums, don't really like the rest, but I think that sounds very cool. I'm going to need to go back and check out A World Without Heroes because after the news about Ace came out, I did listen to Alive an awful lot, but I didn't listen to very much else by Kiss. And I can't really recall what A World Without Heroes really even sounds like. So, yeah, I need to go back and check out the original. But as far as the cover is concerned, I think it sounds fucking cool. Nice production as well. Like, just coming through these Focal cans, I can imagine that it would sound pretty goddamn sweet on a hi-fi system. And on the topic of hi-fi, just to give you guys an update on the old Jackson home theater, I bought myself that Perliston S7C center channel speaker. So that is now proudly sitting between my Griffin Pantheon left and right speakers. I'm telling you right now, it sounds fucking sweet inside this room. I screened Blade Runner 2049 the other day, just to give that speaker a bit of a workout, and it sounded absolutely fucking sensational. My plan next year is not to go to the Hi-Fi show. They've actually moved it from Munich to Vienna now. I'm actually planning on going to Cedia in Colorado. So if you're a Legionnaire and you're based out of Colorado, let's hook up. Let's go have us some food. And if you want, you can join myself and my man Andre as we go and check out Cedia. I might even record something there for the news rant as well. Not news rant, sorry, for the channel, for the podcast. All right. As you can tell, it's been a long day. It's time for me to wrap up. I want to say a massive thank you once again to Wyatt Turner. Check out Wyatt's Metal. It's a great channel. Wyatt's a fucking killer guest. What a pleasure having him on the show. Also, make sure that you check out Suffering, my premiere on the Sphere. Check out Wyatt's band, Dark Insanity. Make sure you get your asses back here again next week. Guest to be confirmed it was going to be Snorer, but I'm going to have to pivot and come up with something else. I do have someone in the pipeline, and I do need to do a week where I release 2 episodes. Not sure yet whether it's going to be this week, but if not this week, it'll be next week. It needs to be, because come hell or high water, episode 300 is dropping on December the 2nd. So on that, I think that's basically all that I've got left to say. Outside of that, whatever it is that you are doing, my friends, and wherever it is that you are, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you bad motherfuckers again next time.